Down. How's it going, everybody? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And boy, do we have an episode for you all today. We are going to be doing our Fantastic Four stories in Evergreen. So before I go any further, I never do this by myself. I'm going to let my panelists introduce themselves one by one and where you can find them. To my right, every time. A stupid mirror. To my right is...
Hello, everybody. I'm Crisis with a K. You can find me at crushingcrisis.com and also Crushing Crisis on YouTube. I'm so excited to be back for another Evergreen after a month of break with so many people I love to argue with and new faces who I'm sure I'm going to love to argue with as well. So I'm very, very excited to talk about the Fantastic Four.
Excellent. And to his right is Larry.
Hey. My channel is Larry's Library, and I do comic reviews, top 10s, unboxings,
etc., which covers the Fantastic Four. And making her debut is right below me is Linz. How are you from Linz Soapbox?
Yes, hi, I'm Linz. I'm so excited to be here. I actually grew up watching Omar's channel, so I'm very honored and grateful to be here. And you can find me at Lean Soapbox. I post all things Marvel, comics, the films, and I love action figures, so I post a lot about that.
And just like
she just started right off by calling you old, which we love here. We love that.
Welcome, Linz.
Just like that, I was like, hey.
The first dagger has been struck into our ribs, so that's
how you know she's a long-term viewer, because she knows that's the culture here.
Yeah. Mainly, we just talk comics and insult each other. That's what we do.
Yes.
Didn't you even wait to see my choices? All right. Gianni making also the debut here on Near Mint Condition. How are you, and where can people find you?
I am doing very well. I've also been watching your channel for years, so this is an honor to be on. Thank you for inviting me. And you can find me at Biff Bam Pow, a comic book podcast over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts.
All right. No more young people, Peter. You were like, it's going to be a great idea. We're going to have young people. It's going to be the best. Oh, I'm feeling it today. And to Gianni's right is Sean, coming back from more of a beating with his choices. What's up, Sean? How you doing from the Comics Pal?
Hey, Omar. It's great to be here. I don't recall getting any beatings around these parts. And I don't expect to incur any tonight, because I think I've got some pretty good choices. You guys know I am Sean from the Comics Pals. You guys can find us all over the internet at the Comics Pals, youtube.com/the Comics Pals. Omar, that's for you. And personally, you can find me at Sean's Soapbox. So, Linz, we have a little bit of something in common there.
That's so cool.
Did anybody else grow up watching me, Lars?
No. Oh, God.
All right, Lars, take it away.
Okay. Lars Pearson, publisher and editor-in-chief of Mad Norwegian Press, formerly of Wizard Magazine, and I've made efforts to clean my camera and be brightly lit, because Peter has said that he will only say nice things about me behind my back. Okay, so I want to make sure that I am brightly illuminated, okay, and the insults are ready to fly. Curtis, on the other hand, is normally very silhouetted, okay? Talking with Curtis is just like talking to one of those people who run S.H.I.E.L.D., where you can't really see their faces, okay? In fact, I'm not sure anybody knows what Curtis looks like. He just operates in darkness. Yeah, there we go. See? Yeah. What's this guy look like? No one can pick him out of a lineup.
He just
well, and speaking of Curtis, that's my name, and I'm from the Epic Marvel Podcasts. And I am Canadian, so I don't throw the insults as well as some of these guys do, but I try my best.
I think you underestimate yourself.
Card in there. Very nice, very nice. Thank you, Bruce. I grew up watching Omar also. No, you did not grow up watching me. Stop it. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about the Fantastic Four. There is a movie coming out, and we decided to talk about the top 10 best Fantastic Four stories that belong in an evergreen list. But you all know how this goes. Eventually, we'll probably make it top 11, top 12. So, Peter, do you want me to go ahead and start the slideshow? Or are you ready?
Let's get into it. We'll talk about the rules on the first couple of slides for our newcomers, both on the show and in the chat. If you are new to us, welcome. We do this evergreen stream almost monthly, and we've debated hotly over the best Marvel books, DC books, Batman books, X-Men books, Daredevil books recently, which was a really good one. So, Omar, why don't we get some slides going and talk about what it means to be evergreen? On this first one, Sean, can I ask you to tell us what evergreen means when Omar goes to this next slide today?
Yeah, Sean, can you read or remember things?
Yes, I can.
Go for it.
Evergreen is another way to refer to a book that is always in print. And what we mean by that is you go to Barnes & Noble, you go to your local comic book shop, this book is there. That means that it's going to be a book that anytime there's low stock, publishers are going to make sure that it is stocked at the distributor level, because we always need to be able to read these comics.
Perfect.
Okay. Well done.
And now let's hit the next one, which is why are we talking about stories? Because if you've seen one of these before, we've done like evergreen omnibuses, evergreen trades. Well, here's the thing with Fantastic Four. They have 13 omnibuses. Of those, 10 of them are part of numbered omnibus lines. There's 6 classic ones. There's 2 Burns, 2 Hickmans. So immediately it gets really hard to pick omnibuses. And with only 13, we wouldn't have enough to vote on. And the Fantastic Four has only had gap-free trade paperbacks since 2003. So just around the time, I think one trade before the Wade and Waringo ran began. That's a tongue twister. So we couldn't just say omnibuses. We couldn't just say trades. So what we said was stories. We're going to pick Fantastic Four stories that could span any time from 1961 all the way to last month. And we have to make our pitch for why our stories collection should be the Evergreen collection. Very similar to how Marvel is building their new Marvel Premiere line, which does have a Fantastic Four book in it, but anything is fair game for us.
Okay.
So we'll talk about the rules of the debate now, Omar, on the next slide, and then we're going to get started. So each person has picked 3 stories. A story could be anywhere from 3 to 15 issues in length, up to about 320 pages. That could be an evergreen Marvel Premiere collection. And our picks are based on anything. Omar likes to talk about sales picks. Other ones of us like to talk about our heartstrings being tugged. And some of us just like cool stories or cool art. Some of us even like stuff that's a little bit terrible. But our criteria are our own, and we will explain and defend that criteria to each other. First in a round where we're going to very quickly present each of our picks, then in a much longer round where we're going to all discuss each other's picks and whether they're good or not, and then a final voting round to determine what is on our evergreen list. Omar, I think that's it.
That's it? Okay. Lars, did you get all that? Because I remember you usually having problems with the rules. Are you good?
As we know, I am notoriously stupid and poorly educated. So
don't put words in my mouth. Don't put words in my mouth. I said.
I think even with my limited intelligence, I was able to keep up. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Limited intelligence. Wow. All right. Let the evergreen debate begin. Who is up first? Who's our first lucky contestant?
We've got Curtis first to the stage today.
Take it away, Curtis.
Wow, look at these picks. Just incredible choices here. So
Let's kick it up, man. Tom DeFalco, hell yeah. Go ahead.
So yes, I am. There's if people who've been paying attention to my Facebook group and such know that I am a big fan of Tom DeFalco's Fantastic Four. Not just because this was my entry into the Fantastic Four in the '90s, but it's just a great run. He is a classic storyteller, does some incredible things. Now, his run is long because he did his stint from 1991 to 1994. And so to try and get a story, and he doesn't follow conventional story arcs either. So I had to try and figure out what's the one story that I want to pick out here. And I'm picking Nobody Gets Out Alive, which is an amended version of the epic collection of the same name. Amended because I'm just trying to take out the Star Blast crossover story and just just include the essential bits from those issues that keep the ongoing plots going forward. But this is a great storyline. One of the characters is taken out of the picture, and the remaining three of the Fantastic Four, plus their plethora of friends that they've gathered, go on an adventure. There's time travel. There's some really cool stuff. Tom DeFalco does long form storytelling better than anybody in the 90s, I think. And this is just a great era for Fantastic Four. My second pick is World's Greatest by Mark Millar and Brian Hitch. Not one of the most talked about eras of Fantastic Four, but really great. This first story arc is the first half of their run, and there's this fantastic. Every time we say fantastic, it's always pun intended. Fantastic story about this whole other kind of counter Earth that's being built, and Reed's involvement in that, and this new group of seemingly villains that come from the future called the New Defenders, including the Hulk. And it's great. And I love Brian Hitch's in-your-face, incredibly detailed artwork, and Miller has some great concepts. And while I don't really agree with his portrayal of Johnny Storm in this, I think he has the other three characters spot on, and it's a really fun ride. The last one is a relatively new book, a standalone graphic novel called Fantastic Four Full Circle by Alex Ross, one of the great cover painters of our era here. And he pulls an obscure character out of the Jack Kirby days of Fantastic Four and creates this whole story around him. And it's really, really great. Some of the most incredible comic pages that you've ever seen, all in one standalone story. Really good stuff. So there are my three picks.
Wow. Good pitch, man. Okay. Up next is Lynn's. All right, lady, take it away.
Okay, so my picks. First of all, I had to try and fit Silver Surfer in here somehow because I love Silver Surfer, and hopefully someone chose the Galactus trilogy, but I decided to choose Fantastic Four number 57 through 60, and basically what happens here is Doctor Doom steals the power cosmic of Silver Surfer, and this was during the time that Silver Surfer was grounded, so he was like trapped on Earth, and he was very naive with planet Earth, and so he falls for Doom's ploy, and I think it makes a good story because Doctor Doom with the power cosmic, like, he was kind of going nuts, and obviously the Fantastic Four have to try and stop him, basically at this point kind of his most powerful that he had been. And I think it really encapsulates the fun of Jack Kirby's and Stan Lee's run. And then for my second pick, I chose John Byrne's Fantastic Four number 245, and then 280 and 284, which is essentially the Malice arc. And I chose 245 because I think that kind of perfectly sets up 280 and 284. And basically what happens is that Psycho Man emotionally manipulates Susan Storm and brings out her dark side, which we learn embodies all of Sue's like anger and pain and insecurity that she has kept for years, right? Because she's felt underestimated or kind of sidelined or just not felt like she's good enough. And by the end of the story, Susan Storm kind of embraces those emotions, takes down Psycho Man, and embraces her potential, coming out stronger than ever, renaming herself Invisible Woman, which I think is pretty iconic. And although the arc isn't perfect, I think it really adds depth to Susan's character and helps push her character forward. And I think her going by Invisible Girl for so long was obviously diminishing to her, not only as a woman, but also just like as a Fantastic Four member. And I think this story perfectly is perfect for her, and also just the Fantastic Four in general, because Fantastic Four member literally changes their name, which is pretty monumental. And then as for my last pick, it is Fantastic Four's Ryan North's Fantastic Four. I wish I could choose just the entire series because I enjoy it very much, but I think Ryan does a great job at character-driven stories, and a lot of them are like self-contained, and North really allows each character to shine, because not only do we have like the four main Fantastic Four members, but we also have Franklin and Valeria, and then we have Alicia. I love how he uses Alicia in the series. And then we also have Ben and Alicia's kids. And I think it really kind of it reminds me a lot of like Jack Kirby's and Stan Lee's run, because I think there's a lot of fun in it, and he really isn't scared to be creative with it.
And
those are my picks.
Wow, I think that was the quietest we've ever been. I'm gonna give it up to the panel for being really quiet.
We were listening with rapt attention. Yes,
dude, we were so quiet. I was like, "Is she done?" I don't think we've ever let anybody finish their sentence.
No.
Well, we have to be respectful for the newcomers.
Okay, well, that was it, right?
Also, Lynn's is gunning
Yes, that
for
was
Sean's
it.
title of best pitcher. Because the pitch for the Invisible Woman one, I mean, we can't discuss yet, but I'm ready.
Curtis is like, you bastards always talk over me when I'm talking. Okay. Before we get to the next person, let me correct John really quick. Yesterday I found bourbon. No, you did not. Proof Crooked Furrow, made in my home state of North Dakota. Then it's not bourbon, John. It is pretty good. But this proves I know more about bourbon than Omar. Suck it, I mean, I love you, buddy. I love you too, but you know you're damn wrong, because you need that limestone for it to be bourbon. You ain't got that in North Dakota. North Dakota? For some reason, I thought you were like in North Carolina. All right. Next up, Sean, we're going to talk over you because this ain't your first time here.
Do what you will, man. It won't change facts. You know what I mean?
All right. Take it away, buddy.
All right. So, Fantastic Four Life Story is the perfect series for people who want their stories to, well, end. It does everything that it does something I think is incredibly cool. It takes the Fantastic Four and it has them age in real time, effectively giving us a look at their entire lives. What's fascinating is the directions that writer Mark Russell takes them due to the fact that their lives progress like real people. It's a little more tragic of a story than typical Fantastic Four fare, but I think that adds to its uniqueness. It's a fantastic story that works great for someone to whom continuity isn't as important, and as ever, Russell's social and historical commentary is as on point as you would expect. I was blown away by this series, and I really, really highly recommend it to anybody who wants something a little different from the Fantastic Four. Next is Fantastic Four by Jonathan Hickman. I don't think anyone would argue against the fact that Marvel's biggest writer over the last decade is Jonathan Hickman. Well, before he was head of X and revolutionizing the X-Men, I still have not forgiven Marvel for his run going unfinished. He was taking the Fantastic Four to greater heights than arguably ever before. He had a lengthy run with Marvel's quintessential quartet, but for this Evergreen discussion, I've chosen the first few arcs of his story, where he masterfully introduces and places all the characters and concepts that will prove critical throughout. This is where we get things like the Council of Reeds, a group of multiversal versions of Reed Richards who work together for the betterment of mankind, one of the most enduring concepts introduced into Fantastic Four lore. There's also plenty of great storytelling involving the many children of the Fantastic Four extended family, making this a story that has as much heart and hilarity as it does spacefaring exploration and cool fights. It's the perfect story for someone who wants to see the Fantastic Four at their boldest, under the careful hands of one of Marvel's greatest architects. Now, last up, I chose Fantastic Four by Ryan North. Ryan North's Fantastic Four is the modern, current run for the characters, and honestly, it's the biggest breath of fresh air in the midst of Marvel's less than stellar publishing line right now. Ryan North is frankly a genius, and he manages to write the Fantastic Four like the intelligent universal travelers they are. Nearly every issue is a one-shot, making them incredibly accessible, perfect for Evergreen, and reminiscent of the bygone days of newsstand comics. These issues also tend to silo a couple of Fantastic Four members together, so we dig deeper into each character and get to know them better. He also, alongside his incredible artists, shows the possibilities of Reed Richards as a body horror character. Some of the stuff that they pull off is really gross, but it's also a ton of fun. If you want a story that feels timely and current, but also accessible, you absolutely want to read this series.
All right. Gianni. Psych.
Oh, maybe I lied. Maybe I lied. No, it's Johnny.
No, it is Gianni. That was on.
Okay.
All right, Gianni, take it away, buddy.
All right, so if I could have cheated, I would have just chose the entirety of Jonathan Hickman's run, because I am the self-proclaimed third biggest Jonathan Hickman fan in the world. But I decided to go with these three. First up, we have the Imaginauts by Mark Waid and Mike Wieringo. This is the start of the Waid Wieringo run. I have the unpopular opinion that I think that Mark Waid's Marvel work is the best stuff of his career, and this Fantastic Four run is maybe my favorite that he's ever done. The first issue of this alone, issue number 60, is the perfect single issue introduction to the Fantastic Four. I think that it is an issue that perfectly encapsulates why that book and the team is so special. And I think that it is the perfect modern jumping on point for new readers. And I'm pretty sure this trade just got reprinted, but it would be great for it to just stay in print and be evergreen. Next up, the classic Coming of Galactus by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. This is my favorite Fantastic Four story. It is a classic for a reason, and I chose it to be evergreen because, one, this is what the movie is likely going to be based off of, just from the trailers that we've seen and all that we know about the movie so far. And it is just a classic story. It is the introduction to both the Silver Surfer and Galactus. And I also wanted to include the story beforehand in this collection, which is the introduction to the Inhumans, which directly leads into this story as well. I love this stuff. This is classic Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, some of my favorite Jack Kirby art to date. Just iconic moments and deserves to be evergreen. And my last pick is Fantastic Four Grand Design by Tom Scioli. If viewers don't know what the Grand Design series of books were or are, they're basically just recaps and kind of reimaginings and new reader friendly books that the cartoonist Kayfabe crew did. There was X-Men Grand Design, Hulk Grand Design, and now Tom Scioli did Fantastic Four Grand Design. And I loved it. This is my favorite of the Grand Design stuff. I love Tom Scioli's art. It's very Jack Kirby-esque, and it harkens back to that Jack Kirby Stan Lee era that I love so much. And this, again, is very new reader friendly as it goes through a lot of the most iconic moments of the Fantastic Four. And for me, when I think of evergreen stories, they should be new reader friendly and just classic and iconic moments. So that's why I chose these three stories.
All right. Also a newcomer. That's why we let you finish your sentences. Not a newcomer, though, is Lars. So he is royally screwed. Lars, go ahead. Give me your pitch. You got 1 minute.
Impossible. Let me say, by the way, how much I admire Sean. Sean, you seem to script yours in advance, whereas I just spitball it and resort to the power of prayer and hope for the best. So we'll see. Okay. Beginnings and endings, the trial of Reed Richards. I mean, not having a John Byrne story in here would be clinical insanity, and I suppose we can debate which one it should be. But you know, this one, it not only just involves the FF with the entire Marvel universe, it really changes our perspective of Galactus, of all people. It's, you know, and that moves into the trial, which, I mean, spoilers, is because Reed refuses to kill Galactus. And they really start walking through the implications of, I mean, it might seem a good idea to kill the planet killer, but they really start working through the implication of what Galactus is exactly, what it means, and the consequences thereof. This whole story has some really meaningful and funny moments. One of my favorites is that Daredevil and Spider-Man come into the fray while everyone's fighting Galactus, and I think one of them asks the other, he's like, "Why aren't you fighting Galactus?" And they're like, "What do you want me to do? You know, I'm Daredevil or I'm Spider-Man." Yeah, and the trial of Reed Richards actually gets a bit weird because John Byrne is actually in it as a character. But it's very meaningful, very funny, and Byrne's art, he's at his Imperial phase, so it's absolutely spectacular. I also think we need a Jonathan Hickman story in the mix, and you know, we can argue which one or the mapping. I went for the Bridge and Solve Everything. Solve Everything is his first story in the main title. I do think, but Dark Reign Fantastic Four weirdly is where Hickman begins. And I do think the events of that story inform upon 570 to 573, because Reed builds this bridge that takes him to parallel realities. And at the end of that Dark Reign miniseries, I mean, he and Sue have a quite important conversation, and the ramifications of that really factor into the main title. It's always a little awkward suggesting a writer's first story, because you feel like you're implying that everything after that is relatively crap. That's actually not true. But this is, I think, the best Reed Richards story ever, because it fully delves into who Reed is and what he's capable of, but why he so clings on to his family. I mean, I think people in real life have to decide, how invested are you in your spouse? How invested are you in your family? And he, being Reed Richards, in a way, he could probably accomplish a lot more if he, didn't have those family ties. He could accomplish a lot more scientifically. But why does he cling to his family? Honestly, at the end of this, I cried. I absolutely cried. It's probably the only Fantastic Four story to make me tear up at the end. Best Reed Richards story. And then Secret Wars. Okay. I mean, I guess you could argue, is this a Fantastic Four story or not? I think it is. This is the big Marvel event that proves that the Fantastic Four is an important cornerstone of the Marvel Universe. The whole story here is predicated on them and Doom. And also the Maker, who's also Reed Richards. Basically, every other crossovers, what happens is that something is going on and the Fantastic Four just show up. And you go, oh, well, it's nice to see you, but the story isn't really about you. In fact, in Infinity Gauntlet, they're actually taken out by the snap. They're actually not in Infinity Gauntlet at all, because the editor didn't want to share the characters with Jim Starlin. Here, it's like they are the crucial cornerstone of the Marvel Universe, which is why clearly the movies are moving toward the point of introducing the Fantastic Four. And then I don't know how much of this they're going to use as a script for the upcoming Avengers movies, but it's called Secret Wars. Presumably this is the source material of the new movies. But it just shows, the Fantastic Four in some regards, they're not just a part of the Marvel Universe. They are the Marvel Universe. They were the first team. They really matter. And this is the story that proves it.
Okay. Next up is Crisis. All right, Crisis. What do you got here, buddy?
So usually I am the one who's bringing the unique and different picks in a lot of cases.
Yeah,
but this time mine overlap other people's with some shades of difference. So let's talk about it. I'm going to make the case, as we've already partly heard from Johnny, that the run of issues from Fantastic Four 1961, 41 to 55 is perhaps the best and most important run of issues in the entire Silver Age of comics. In this run of just 15 issues, we introduce the Frightful Four, which leads to the introduction of the Inhumans. Then we introduce Silver Surfer along with the Watcher. Then we introduce Galactus, and then we introduce Black Panther. And then we have yet another Silver Surfer story at the end of it, which I believe includes Dr. Doom as well. This is like a greatest hits of Kirby and Lee at Marvel. It's like a greatest hits of Fantastic Four. It's like a greatest hits of the building blocks of the modern Marvel Universe, due to so much amazing stuff being introduced in little 2 and 3 issue kernels. I know that Linz has a run that starts directly after this. I think that run is also fantastic, but I think if there is one Marvel run in all of Marvel's publishing history that should be permanently evergreen, it is issues 41 through 55 of the Fantastic Four, not just the Galactus stuff. How could you do just the Galactus stuff and not also include the introduction of the Black Panther, Claw, and Wakanda after that? So I'll have to get into it, Johnny, because I want to expand the contents of that proposal from him. However, my second one, I literally, number for number, issue for issue, had the same exact pick as my Canadian colleague Curtis, which is Nobody Gets Out Alive. Because, as he said, those 2 issues that we have material from are part of a crossover, so we just need the subplot of them getting back to Earth. I was a Fantastic Four reader at this point, dating me compared to some of the youths on the panel. And the reason I really like this is I love the entire Tom DeFalco and Paul Ryan run, but it wasn't a lot of story arcs because that just wasn't the style. I mean, we shouldn't grade them down because they weren't doing story arcs in a modern sense, but this was. And I remember getting this issue, which had a cool chromium cutout around Sue Storm, and you turn the page and she was on the interior page, and I was I thought that was so cool, but then I realized this was a 5-issue story, and they were saying like, we're going to tell such a big story, and it really captured my attention. But I also like it because it puts all of the team in play in very specific ways, and it brings in their allies. It really shows the kind of like time-spanning universal quality of the Fantastic Four. I really think in a post-Byrne, pre-Wade era, which is a pretty wide swath of years, this is probably one of the most fun story arcs that you can just pluck out and hand to somebody, especially with all this lead-up material that Curtis and I both included. So I still love it to this day. I think it's got great art. I think it's really fun to read, and it's like tense. Like you're truly worried for them, which I think works. I think sometimes if there's no tension and risk, and not that one of them is going to die necessarily, but like that the family might fracture, that makes a good Fantastic Four story, and I think that exists here. But my third one, I'm also slightly at odds, ever so slightly, with the issue ranges that my colleagues Sean and Linz have picked, because I also picked Fantastic Four by Ryan North, and I want to echo something that they said. I do not think this is just a recency effect. I think Ryan North is doing things that absolutely are in line with Kirby and Lee Fantastic Four, and doing them in a modern way that everybody on the buying comic books today can appreciate, but also older readers who don't love modern comic books can appreciate. I have said so many times in this run, this is the best Fantastic Four story I've ever read about multiple single issues. And that's why my issue range is a little bit tweaked compared to theirs, because I think issues 23 and 24 are amazing. And I think issue 25 is absolutely essential, truly one of the best ever. So I was like, oh, like, are there a couple slower, smaller issues that I can pull out to get there? But just like, I think it was Linz who said, I wish I could just pick this whole run. It's absolutely, utterly fantastic. And even some of the issues I skipped, one of the issues is the Film Noir Alicia Masters issue. That one is fantastic. There's so many good issues in this run, but I just could not leave out them saving the Earth in issue number 18, and then them going to another universe in issue number 25. But this Ryan North one, it's incredible. The interior art, even though it's by 3 different artists, is very consistent. And the stories, even though they're one-shot stories, together really knit a fabric of what makes this family work and what their powers really are. It's not just the body horror aspect of some of their powers, but also the science, because Ryan North is an actual scientist, and he loves to explain the science in his stories. So those are my 3 picks, which I think are 3 of the strongest picks anyone's going to present.
Wait, you can't throw that at the end of your what the hell? All right, moving on to Larry. Really likes John Byrne. Go ahead, Larry.
Yep. Okay, with my picks, I kind of push the limits of the rules here, because this closely follows the mapping of the first John Byrne omnibus. I couldn't quite get all of them in there, but I got real close. So volume 1 would be Marvel Team Up 61-62. Then we would have Marvel 2-in-1 50, and then Fantastic Four 209 through 221. So the highlights here would include Terrax's origin. You get to see John Byrne's art transform over the years. You See Him inked by Joe Sennett, and eventually he ends up doing pretty much everything. So book 2 would be the next chunk, and it's Fantastic Four 232 through 245, and this is all Byrne. So you finally see Byrne in total control of his vision of the FF. You could argue this is his best art was in this period, the early to mid 80s. You see his take on Diablo, Ego the Living Planet, Doctor Doom, the Inhumans, Annihilus, Galactus, and more. You get the Frankie Ray saga. You got a triple-sized issue of Terror in a Tiny Town, and then the return of Terrax. It's wonderful. Then the book 3 is 245 through 257, also all Byrne. And then you have a crossover with Avengers 233 and The Thing issue 2. So you get this big Annihilus mini event here, and you get a lot of Doctor Doom. And that is it. So this is like the first half of John Byrne's 5-year run.
You're a madman, Larry. I love that. John Byrne is somewhere is he still in Canada? Really, really happy that you made all of his books to be put on this Evergreen list. At this moment, I just want to remind people to hit that like button, please. And also, let me get this super chat really quick. And I think we lost. Who did we lose? We lost somebody. Linz. Okay, I'll wait for her to come back. And Omar is wrong about bourbon and worth $2. I was, and I worked at a distillery for 5 years. I don't think I'm wrong. Maybe there you are, Linz. We thought we lost you. Okay. Now, look, here's the thing. I know how this works. I know how I pretty much knew the choices were going to be a safe bet between Kirby and Lee, John Byrne, and Jonathan Hickman. I knew those would be the staple. So I kind of was like, and Mark Waits, which is like my all-time favorite run. So I was like, okay, I got to think outside the box. Let's put some stuff in here that other people won't pick. So I actually pulled the Crisis card this time around because I was the one with the odd choices. So I went with Fantastic Four versus the X-Men, which is a little mini series that Chris Claremont wrote, and it's really dark. Like, it starts off with Franklin having a nightmare, and he's waking up, and his father, Reed Richards, has killed his mother, and then it turns out that he's killed like all of the Fantastic Four. Wolverine is like, he's killed not just the Fantastic Four, he's killed the X-Men, and there's this secret Reed Richards journal from the, what was it, State University, I think, and that perhaps Dr. Reed Richards isn't that nice of a guy, and all of this was kind of planned for them to get the powers, and something else is going on behind the scenes. And I just think it's such a great story with great artwork by John Bogdanove and, of course, Claremont. This is also in the aftermath of Mutant Massacre, so there's like this big thing that happens to Kitty Pryde, because during this time she was staying phased. Like, they could not make her solid. Like, so 4 issues, love it. Now, the new Fantastic Four mapping, I would be okay with 3 issues, but not Peter. He was like, no, you need to choose more. So I was like, okay, let's put in the Walter Simonson.
I said, let me know issues. I did not bully you to pick more than 3.
Did. Okay. I'm sorry. I misread that. But yeah, no, I'm okay with this. 340 to 350. It's the beginning with the team up with Iron Man and Thor in Gladiator, and they go and try to destroy this weapon that Galactus has put together. And of course, they get stuck in this like time travel loop, which is Fantastic Four type of storytelling. But the big thing that happens here towards the end of his run, and this 3 issues of 347, 348, and 349 are drawn by the legendary Arthur Adams, Walter Simonson writing it. And Walter knows how to get his artist excited. Like, he knew that Arthur Adams was in the big kaiju, so he was like, how about we just throw him in Monster Island, and you can replace the Fantastic Four with Wolverine, Spider-Man, Hulk, and Ghost Rider. So yes, the world believes that the Fantastic Four are dead, everybody but Sue Storm, and in come in the replacements FFs, which is the Hulk, Wolverine, Ghost Rider, and Spider-Man. So awesome. It's a great crossover. And ending it with issue 350, which is the big battle between Thing and Doctor Doom. It's a great Walter Simonson written and drawn issue. The last one I went with, I'm a huge fan of also Tom DeFalco and Paul Ryan. I think it's a very underrated run. I hope one day we get this in Omni format. But I went with The Monsters Among Us. So it's pretty much 357 to 365, and it focuses, and sorry, this is a bit of a spoiler, but I have to talk about why it's really, really good. It focuses on the idea that Alicia was at one time replaced by a Skrull, Lyja. So when Johnny Storm married Alicia and Ben got mad, he's like, you took my girl, because Ben was in another world because of Secret Wars, the original. It turns out that it wasn't Alicia at all. It was the Skrull that was like taking over Alicia's life. So not only do you get that element where Johnny Storm's like, I married a Skrull, but also, where has Alicia Masters been the whole time? And it's kind of learning to adapt to this new life of, you know, he fell in love with this woman that he thought was Alicia, but it's not really her. But did he really fall in love with her? Or is she just some kind of secret agent? Oh man, it's such a good story. And then you throw elements in there of course, Alicia Masters trying to learn like what's happening. Why is the Thing Ben, they were last together? Why is he now with what was her name? Sharon Ventura, right? Miss Marvel, who is also now during this time a Rocky Thing. It's got all the drama that I love about comics, with a lot of also over the top ridiculous storylines in there too. But those are my 3 choices. Now comes the fun part. Time to argue. All right. Do we go back to the beginning?
Back to the top, baby.
And who was at the top? Curtis is at the top.
Curtis.
All right. Curtis's choices. Let's go here.
Okay. Let's hear it.
All right. Curtis, Mark Miller, how dare you? Why?
I was just going to say that.
Like, you took out Jack Kirby and Stan. I really thought you were going to bring in Jack Kirby.
Yeah. So I had the same thought that you did. I'm like, I'm not going to cover Kirby or Byrne or Wade because obviously, so I'm going to pick some little bit more obscure picks, and this is what I do in all of these evergreens. I want to try and push the limits a little bit more.
Okay, but
I know this is a divisive friend.
But wait, I want to get back to what I heard was maybe Johnny tearing into Curtis about the Mark Miller pick. Was that you?
Yes, it was indeed.
I want to hear more about that.
I'm there is one Mark Miller comic that I have enjoyed, and it is a single issue of Wolverine. I'm just not a fan of Mark Miller's writing. I love Brian Hitch's art, but this run was just it's weird because this is not like typical gross, grotesque kind of Mark Miller. This is it's just a very boring run for me. I'm not a huge fan of the way he characterizes the Four in general. It's just kind of a nothing run for me, and I think that Hickman's run right after is such a huge improvement that you can just kind of skip this entirely.
Except for the fact that he introduces that Valeria is super intelligent in this one. Like that's the kind of the long-lasting thing from this run.
And you could argue like there's that one storyline that's introduced in the Miller run that Hickman does also pick up in his run, but you can kind of just read Hickman's run and you'll understand what happens just by reading it.
It's the New World stuff. The New World stuff is great.
Yeah.
Well, the New World kind of leads into that what Jonathan Hickman did. But at the time,
Larry was going to say something. Was it you, Larry? That was.
I like Miller's run. Yeah. I thought
speak
it was
more
really
about this.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, say a few more words.
I had a good time with it. I loved it. It's not my favorite, but I would probably vote for this.
Dude, you voted for 3 John Byrne books. You could have voted for the Mark Miller book. You went insane, Larry. Your other 2 choices, I actually like. Full Circle graphic novel is solid, beautiful Alex Rock's artwork. I'm also a big fan of Nobody Gets Out Alive. I think it's a great story. Again, it's that Tom DeFalco era that gets overlooked because it's thrown into the 90s and Boob Window, Sue Storm, and that was just like a small.
I have a question about the Fantastic Four Full Circle. Are we including the expanded edition here? Because I think it fails without the expansion.
Sure. Yep. Let's call it the expanded version.
Okay, I like that. Wait. But it was a Fantastic Four story. Reed Richards is a dick. It's not. It's just happens to guest star of the X-Men. It's not my fault they sell. That's all I have to say. Curtis, Mark Miller sucks. Yeah, that's all. Linz, what do you got to add to Curtis's choices? What do you like? What do you not like?
Okay, I think Fantastic Full Circle is my favorite out of these. I think the Mark Miller one, that cover is so iconic now. So
okay. And have you read the Mark Miller run, Linz?
No, I have not read. That's what I'm saying. The only thing that the Mark Miller one has on me is the cover because I think it's funny.
I will say though that not everybody has read. So sometimes it's about a sales pitch. Like sometimes one of us brings something obscure and we've got to win each other over. So you could still be convinced to vote for it, even if you have not read it.
The Nobody Gets Out Alive story should appeal to Linz because it revisits the whole malice persona of Sue Richards, Sue Richards.
And it's a good story. Sean, what do you think? I know you're a big Mark Miller fan.
Yes, I am. And I enjoyed this story quite a bit. This was my first Fantastic Four anything in comics. And I love Miller and Hitch's. I mean, both of their work is always good, in my opinion. And so I was a big fan of
You
this.
hear that, Gianni?
Unfortunately, yes, I do hear it.
And then Fantastic Four Full Circle almost made my list. I came prepared to argue for that. And so I love this book. I think it's fantastic. I've not seen the expanded version, so I can't comment on that. But just going off of what I've read of it, it is tremendous. So those are both going to get passes from me. And then Nobody Gets Out Alive. I don't have experience with this one. But because we're doing Evergreen and we're talking about the biggest and boldest, I just don't know if what I have heard fits the mold for what should be Evergreen in my mind.
What you've heard in this live stream is everyone saying that it's great.
Yes, that is true, but great is not the only qualifier for Evergreen.
Oh, look at Sean sticking to the rules. All right, Johnny, you said your piece about World's Greatest. What do you think about Nobody Gets Out Alive or Full Circle?
Well, Full Circle is actually one of my backups, so I love Full Circle. I think it might be my favorite Alex Ross art ever. Just from an art standpoint, I think it's amazing. And I'm not sure because this is published by Abrams, correct?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So
But
does that mean
it's Marvel approved though? Like they can't do it without Marvel's approval.
But does that mean that it already is Evergreen?
Oh,
I don't think so.
Well, not necessarily.
Has let some things go out of print,
Okay.
but that's a really good...
like any publisher, if it stops selling, they'll stop printing it.
Okay. Yeah, but I agree with this. I love Fantastic Four Full Circle, and I actually have not read the Tom DeFalco run, but from everything that you guys have said, I will definitely be reading that. It is a big blind spot for me with the Fantastic Four. So I don't really have much to say about Nobody Gets Out Alive, but you guys are starting to convince me.
Oh, okay. Lars, a man of very few words about his opinions on Mark Miller. You're also a big Mark Miller fan, and what do you think about this list?
Yeah. So actually, Curtis, I'm grateful to you for picking World's Greatest because I really enjoy it. I will happily vote for it. It seems like it's considered often kind of a controversial story because the idea seems to be that if you're a Fantastic Four fan, you won't like Mark Miller writing for it. And if you're a Mark Miller fan, you won't like that he's writing Fantastic Four. I'm not what you'd call necessarily a dyed-in-the-wool Fantastic Four devotee traditionalist, and I really enjoyed this. I thought Brian Hitch's art is always stunning. I thought some of the ideas that Mark Miller brings onto the board were really interesting. I thought the character interactions were really interesting. I'm curious why you didn't think Johnny Storm's characterization worked, because from memory, Johnny gets in a romantic relationship with a supervillain, and he kind of knows, or a bank robber, I think, and he kind of knows that he shouldn't. But I think the idea is he keeps going, how could anything that is so wrong feel so right? Which I thought was kind of appropriate for the character.
For sure. So that aspect of his character is fine. The rest of it is that he is constantly like sleeping around with women, and there's even one story in there about how he's impregnated somebody and doesn't remember it. And so it was that aspect. I mean, he's always been a womanizer, but Marvel has never been that blatant about it and that in your face about it.
Got it. Funnily enough, I bought the re-release, and so this is actually on my shelf to reread. I actually enjoyed it that much, but it seems like Fantastic Four traditionalists don't necessarily like it. I do like it a lot. I will be voting for it.
Oh God, I was being sarcastic. What's happening, Johnny? I thought all these people hated Mark Miller. I was wrong about Sean and Lars.
Yeah.
Go on, Lars.
Full Circle. Here's the funny thing. I haven't actually gotten around to reading Full Circle, and yet it being Alex Ross, I feel like I know exactly what will be in there. So It's an odd case that I haven't read it, but I'm kind of happy to endorse it. Yeah, it probably is a stellar pick. I just haven't read it, but yeah. At the risk of getting attacked by Herbies,
Herbies, everybody.
Herbies? Okay. Herbie
Herbies.
fans. Got it.
Herbies.
Herbie the robot.
Tom DeFalco's writing doesn't turn me on. It's never turned me on. I don't find his dialogue, his characterizations, his any humor about it. It's all meat and potatoes. It's perfectly fine. It doesn't really offend me. Is it A level for me? Absolutely not. And Paul Ryan's art, again, perfectly fine. Is it Evergreen level? Is it A level? No, not really. It's fine. I've never found anything particularly galvanizing about Tom DeFalco's writing, and yeah, I can't get there with this one.
Okay.
So we're not friends anymore.
I supported you on Miller Hitch. What more do you want?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, friendship back on.
Peter, you've been really quiet and so nice to let everybody talk. I'm not gonna assume you're also a Mark Miller fan, but yeah, what do you think of Curtis's
Well,
list?
of course, I picked the same one as that first pick, so
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
endorsing that. Miller, I was so excited to buy this. I remember when I tracked down the trade back before there was, anything recollected, probably was like 2010, because I kind of knew who Hitch was already as I was coming back to comics, and I was like, oh, Hitch, I love him. And then I read it, and it just didn't really go anywhere, and especially because Hickman came right after it, it just kind of is this weird lumpy run. There's some parts of it that I like. There's some art in it that's okay, but it's not Hitch's best art. I don't know what I would call Miller's best writing, but this certainly isn't it. It's fine. I think the FF is such an embarrassment of riches that this might actually be the weakest pick anybody made on the whole show today. Sorry, Curtis.
Whoa, holy cow. Wow.
But I will say that full circle, I kind of had that Lars reaction of like, it's Alex Ross, I know what it is. But I had some time as I was putting the slides together, so I bought myself a digital copy. I started reading because it's not on Marvel Unlimited because it's a Miller's Abrams book. It's not what I expected from Alex Ross. First of all, the art on the inside is him actually cartooning. Like he uses zip dots, he uses shading. It's not just fully painted like the cover is. And it's I guess I
His
expected
use of panels is incredible.
Yeah, the paneling is cool. Like it's still got that Alex Ross absolutely crazy composition, deep, depth of field with people flying around everywhere. But it actually was a lot more substantial than I expected. And I think that something Marvel is usually terrible at is having these kind of one-off stories, whether they're in continuity or not, that you can hand to any fan and go, here, this is what this character is really about, the way you can with Batman or Superman or Wonder Woman. And I think Full Circle does get pretty close to being that. I haven't decided if I'm going to vote for it yet. I'm shocked that Curtis has something from 3 years ago on his list. That's really, really fresh out of the box for Curtis. No chance it's ever going to hit Epic Collection either. But I'm intrigued by that pick.
Larry, you mentioned you liked World's Great. You loved it. Were you a fan of Nobody Gets Out Alive and Full Circle?
I have not read DeFalco's run. Full Circle, I bought it when it first came out, and so it didn't include the 2 or 3 FF back issues that really needs to be in there for this to kind of make sense.
It's
not to mention that it's so thin. It's such a small volume. And I said when that came out and I read, I thought, this needs those issues in there. And later on, they added them. So,
Okay. Well, I have said my piece about World's Crappiest and Nobody Gets Out Alive. I do like Full Circle. So we're going to move on to Lynn's choices here, where she gets a chance to defend herself. This is her first time, so be nice, everybody. Fantastic Four, right? Ryan North. Holy crap. I'm so glad. I was like, I think Peter's going to bring it to the table, so I'm going to not put it on mine. That is an amazing run, and it definitely needs to be evergreen. It is that damn good. John Byrne's Becoming Invisible Woman. That is, to me, one of the best parts of John Byrne's run. I think he changed that character up a lot. Your choices are solid. It's I will say it's going to be a toss-up between the Fantastic Four versus Power Cosmic Doom, and of course the Coming of Galactus, or whatever book that Peter hodgepodged together in
It's
his
15 straight issues, baby. Don't be throwing that hodgepodge at me when it's not even my slide.
Okay. I was complimenting you. Calm down. Your choice
It was
is
more
to go
like a compliment sandwich, but that's okay.
Does Larry have the Becoming Invisible Woman in any of his books?
No, that is
No,
from
he
Omnibus
doesn't.
Volume 2.
Damn it, Larry. Okay. Whew, this is going to be tough. The only one I have an issue with, and it's not even that big of an issue, is the Fantastic Four versus Power Cosmic, because your choices are solid. I really like your choices. So congratulations. I don't know if everybody agrees. Curtis, what do you think?
So my backup pick was a collection of Doctor Doom stories that included Power Cosmic. So I do love this story. Out of all of the stuff from Jack Kirby, though, I don't know that I can vote for this one when there's other Jack Kirby stuff that I think is more essential. And don't get me wrong, I do love this story, but just seeing the other Kirby in here, the Galactus story, and whatever hodgepodge Peter was throwing together. No, just joking, Peter. um, but in Becoming Invisible Woman is great, and like I said, it ties into my pick, which is really great as well. Solid stuff from John Byrne, great air from him, and yeah, Ryan North's Fantastic Four. I have to decide how I'm going to vote for that based on the different ways that it's being divided among all of you. But this is really, really good material here too. So yeah, good choices all around.
Sean, what do you think of Lynn's choices, buddy?
Yeah, so I think obviously I chose Fantastic Four by Ryan North, so I won't quibble about that. The Becoming Invisible Woman story here, I think I'm more compelled by this than the Nobody Gets Out Alive, just because it seems like more of a seminal story focusing on an individual Fantastic Four member, and I like that a lot. I kind of wish there was maybe a way to put Curtis's story and this one together, just to have that complete package. But I still think this one edges it out for me slightly. And then when it
Did
comes
somebody
to
say mapping, Peter?
when it comes to Fantastic Four versus Power Cosmic Doom, I like this a lot. I don't know if this is the story that needs to represent Doom and the Fantastic Four's conflict. And I also don't know if this is the story that needs to represent that era of Fantastic Four comics, but it's definitely high on my list of what's represented here.
Okay. And Gianni, take it away, buddy. You got any problems?
No, I think these are actually really great picks. I was actually going to pick Fantastic Four by Ryan North for mine, but I knew that this was going to come up at least a few times just because of how amazing it is. I think that it's the best ongoing at Marvel. It has been consistently since it started. So I love that pick. I love a good Stanley Jack Kirby. I love Stanley Jack Kirby representation, of course, as you saw from my picks. I do think that the Galactus story is the more important story out of the entirety of that run. So although I do love the Power Cosmic Doom story, I think that if we're talking Evergreen, Coming of Galactus would be the one to go with. And Becoming Invisible Woman is also my favorite story during the John Byrne, so I love that pick.
Oh, okay. It is a really good one. All right, Lars. What could you possibly have to say?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Who knows? Very little. Let's see. Okay, so I guess we're gonna have to probably fight it out or duke it out as to how to map the Ryan North run, because that's been on the list a few times in different configurations. Weirdly, I think this mapping might make the most sense. Is that instead of trying to go, well, this Ryan North story or that Ryan North story, or kind of Swiss cheesing it together, maybe we should just go, screw it, 1 through 15. It's kind of a granular approach anyway, so I guess this is the mapping that makes the most sense to me. So yeah, definitely to that one. Becoming Invisible Woman. Again, John Byrne in his Imperial phase. I would absolutely support this story. It is really strong. Well, I realize it's gonna be pummeled with eggs. Lee and Kirby, we should be eternally grateful to them for creating such a vast Fantastic Four universe and showing us how it's done. I find them historically interesting. I don't particularly find it enjoyable. So I would have I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. And again, and also it depends how much you define evergreen as accessible for new people. Would I give Lee, would I give, the teenagers who are in my orbit, would I give them Lee and Kirby? Probably not. I'd probably give them something else.
Lars speaks for the youth.
Well, right. So, and again, well, that's kind of how I was growing up. John Byrne might have been my first Fantastic Four. I think I came around during his first run. And then later you experience the Lee and Kirby stuff as, a historical touchstone. But I would have a hard time voting for that one. Because by the way, it's funny how much of John Byrne, that 20th anniversary issue that John Byrne does, which is kind of a love letter to Lee and Kirby. You realize that basically all of John Byrne is a love letter to Lee and Kirby. Basically all of it. He
was a huge fan of Kirby.
John Byrne in a way does Lee and Kirby better than Lee and Kirby. They're the founders, they're the parents, but he improves on it considerably. So yeah.
Okay. Interesting thoughts there. Peter, your thoughts on Lynn's choices?
Well, since I overlap by 2, I think it's time to do a little bit of negotiation. I'm fine by just saying we can discard my North Fantastic Four map. I think Lynn's has got the right idea. Let's just put the first 15 issues in it. I didn't know if anybody else was going to pick it, so I thought I was going to have to be in the trenches defending each issue, why it should be in there. But since we've got multiple people endorsing it, let's just go with the simplest option. I'm willing to fully concede mine. However, I have a deal to offer.
Knee, Lynn's. He is bending the knee already. Wow.
Oh, I'm about to bend some more knee. I have some offer here. Okay. I started my Stan Lee Jack Kirby collection with I think 41 because I wanted to get the Frightful Four stuff in there. I don't think that's so important. I think we could make me, Linz, and Gianni all happy if we just say it should be 45 to 60.
Yeah, I like that.
Ooh,
I like that. I like that. Include 3 of the greatest stories in one collection. That's perfect.
Because this, unquestionably, this Cosmic Doom story is stronger than the Frightful Four stuff at the beginning of mine. So I just think since we're all so close to each other, I'll lop off those 3 off the beginning of mine so we can get it all together. So now we pretty much just come to the middle choice. And here's what I'll say about that. It's tempting because I, in particular, love this Malice story. I actually might like him doing Malice on Invisible Woman, Byrne being him, more than I like him doing Darker Than Scarlet with Scarlet Witch, even though that's more character motivated. I just think that because Sue comes out of this as the Invisible Woman, it's just so much more significant, which I think Lynn stated beautifully. I almost am just now I wish we had a book that had a good character story for each of them in it. I don't know if I want to vote just for an Invisible Woman focused story to be in our top 10. And then I remember Lars has kind of a Reed story, but nobody really brought an important thing story. So I'm kind of just I don't know if that balances in our top 10 because we have so many of the best Fantastic Four stories here. But I love that story and it is one of my favorites. I just don't know about it being my vote.
Okay. Larry, what do you say to more Mark Waid on the top 10 here?
Mark Waid.
John Byrne. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. I'm totally for that. And I agree that the Power Cosmic Doom should be merged with the other stuff. Totally vote for that. Can't vote for the Ryan North stuff because I haven't read it yet, but it looks good.
So it is good. It is good. Okay, we are moving on to Sean's choices. Fantastic Four 5-7. Does that have the ending of the first story arc in your mapping?
You're referring to the
Jonathan Hickman?
Oh, yeah, it has the ending to the first story arc in it. Yeah.
Okay, then that's a yes for me. That is a freaking awesome story. I already said yes to Ryan North. The only one I have a problem with is Life Story. And it's the same reason I have a problem with uh, Gianni's choice of fan, which I know you haven't. Uh, we're not even talking about your
Design.
slides yet. But yeah, grand design. I don't know. I these kind of stories that accumulate all the years of comics into just like a mini series never really worked for me. Uh, because I want people to experience them, and it's a very selfish thing. I want people to experience the stories as they were written instead of like a. Do they still have Cliff Notes? Chat? Anybody? They still make those? Anybody?
Chat GPT.
I don't know if they still make them or Wikipedia entry, whatever it is, like a condensed version of these classic stories that I care about so much. And that is the only. I mean, Mark Russell's a great writer. I really enjoy his stuff. And the artwork in this is great, but that's the only bad thing I have to say about Life Story. But that's all. That's all I got. Curtis, what do you think of these choices, buddy?
So Jonathan Hickman definitely is a must. That is a great story, and I don't know what the issues are that you're chopping out there, but if that makes it more concise and gets a complete story arc or whatever, then that's fantastic. There's North again. So, I mean, why did you skip issue 5? What happens in that one? I don't remember.
Dude, Curtis, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't remember either. I chopped when I did it, and then I completely forgot to remember why I chopped them. I was trying to put it together based on what I thought were the most propulsive and interesting stories that sort of showed the best of what Ryan North's mind could do with these characters. And so I cut things that I just felt like were a little superfluous.
It's Fantastic Four life story. I have a problem with as well. First of all, if we're only picking 10 and we have like a 70-year history to go through, or a 60-year history to go through, I'm not sure that I want to put any alternate reality stories on my list. I also think that this story really benefits from people knowing what happens to the Fantastic Four throughout these decades, like those actual stories. So as a standalone story for a new reader, I don't know that it would hit as hard, not knowing what the actual backstory. So I'm going to not pick that one on my list, but the other two ones are up there for me for sure.
Can I just interject for 1 second to say two things? One,
Yeah.
smash the like button. Second thing is the life story is sort of a recontextualization of their history, and then it kind of does its own thing. It's not a retelling of prior Fantastic Four stories modernized. So I just wanted to make that clear to people who might not have read it. It tells its own story, taking the characters from the 60s to the 10s or whatever. It's not slavish to the actual continuity.
Right, but it still tries to pay service to the tentpole, the tentpole milestone markers of the decades within the story, while trying to tell its own things. That's all I meant.
Yeah, no, I would concede to that for sure.
Linz, what do you think of Sean's choices here of the Fantastic Four for the Evergreen?
Okay, so I agree with the I'm not the biggest fan of the life story run, but I do think it's interesting that that's one of the ones that Marvel recommended before watching, or for Fantastic Four First Steps. And then as for Jonathan Hickman's, I feel like that one's kind of a must. And Ryan North's, well, I chose Ryan North as well.
Okay. And Sean, I already know what you think of your choices.
They're great.
Gianni, take it away, buddy. What do you got?
So, Curtis, you kind of took the words right out of my mouth when talking about Life Story. It's a story that I do enjoy. It's not my favorite or anything, but I do think that having an Elseworld story be evergreen is a little. I'm not sure if I agree with that. But I'm a little bit torn on the Jonathan Hickman because as again, I'm the self-proclaimed third biggest Jonathan Hickman fan in the world, so I love Hickman's Fantastic Four. But for me, that run works when you read it as a whole, and when you kind of take it away and collect it in different chunks like that, I don't think it works as well. This is just kind of a me thing. So I wouldn't disagree with having it on the Evergreen list, but I think that that's just something that people should keep in mind, that this run works much better as a whole big thing as opposed to just different storylines. And I already said my piece with Ryan North stuff, so I agree with that.
Lars, give it to him. Give it to him, Lars.
Come on, Lars.
Let him have it.
Okay. Again, big thumbs up for Ryan North. Yes, as someone in the feed did, I went and looked up the solicitation for the number 5, which you left out. It says the Fantastic Four are reunited and all is well until their convoy is interrupted by Nick's Scratch and Salem's Seven. It's an all-out battle, magical battle for survival, in which, and the solicit says also that they lose. Sean, do you hate witches? Is that what's going on here? Have you burned witches? Are you a witch finder?
Whoa, Lars!
I have never burned a witch.
Well,
I
you'd say
actually,
that, wouldn't you?
I love witches. I wish I could find a witch to cast a spell on me.
Okay. Oh, very good. Very good.
Yes.
Good
yeah, no, Ryan North is good. I think 1 through 15 makes a bit more sense. Fantastic Four by Jonathan Hickman was also on my list. I prefer my mapping a little more, but certainly I think it's a great run. I actually own it. I've not read Life Story, and just kind of I should probably try not to vote for things I've not read on sheer principle, but you can't read everything. So no, I've not read it.
Peter,
Come on, Crisis. I'm crushing on you.
what do you got? What do you got for Sean?
Well, okay, so look, Life Story. To pre-bash Gianni, I don't really enjoy the grand designs that much. That's not going to get my vote. I think Life Story is a little bit more compelling to me because it actually is more of a narrative and less of a Cliff's Notes. However, you're never going to catch me voting for Mark Russell on these things because I do not like Mark Russell's writing. I think it is all incredibly canned and stale. So there's no way. Great pick. Great thought behind it. Mark Russell, never going to get my vote. I do think, however, you have the superior version of collecting Hickman to Lars. And that's Lars, I love you. And I love that whole run. And I love Dark Reign. But when I first read it, I didn't have the Dark Reign trade yet. And I started here and it's fine. And I kind of like when a comic has a little bit of mystery and it like makes you want to go back for a past story. And I would prefer to have that whole Reed story that made us all cry, are very, very, well, not for me, masculine tears, but tears anyway. But that made us all cry. And then I think you got to get through 588. I don't have a problem with the fact that it's just half of Hickman because it ends with like a big thrill at 588 and it was an ending. And, the Future Foundation series started from there. So I think this is actually a really smart way to collect it. It omits the things that are omittable. And but it still gives you what feels like a really full, complete story. And of course, the artwork from Alan Davis, probably my all-time favorite comic book artist, and also Dale Eaglesham, is just absolutely fantastic. I mean, I know it's so easy to get swept up, and everybody on the panel saying Hickman, it's Hickman, so you got to read it. But this truly is extraordinary comic book making, and I think that gets lost in how we all kind of rubber stamp Hickman along the way.
All right, Larry, any thoughts on, well, I know how you feel about Ryan North. What do you think of Hickman and Life Story?
I have not read Life Story.
Okay.
I do like the Hickman. I would vote for that. And on the Ryan North, while I haven't read it, I think it makes sense. Just if you can fit the 15, just take the 15.
Yeah, Sean was not a fan of 5. We're trying to figure out why.
I should say the reason I even cut anything at all was because the rules said we had to be limited to, what was it, 14 issues or I forget exactly how many, but I didn't think I had enough space. Maybe I was mistaken.
You were reading the rules. You know what? +1 for you, Sean.
Okay? Yeah, no, I ironically, I thought it was 15.
Maybe I'm mistaken.
15. Well, it was 15 or 320 pages. So if it's 15 issues and it's like 330 pages,
that works, dude. Yep. Yeah. You know what? +1 for you, -1 for Lars. Well done.
I think.
Okay, moving on to Gianni. Oh my God, Imaginauts is absolutely yes. Oh yeah, you can even go further to what's the next story arc? Unthinkable, the one with Dr. Doom. Oh my gosh, yes. Coming of Galactus, I've said that I would all day, every day vote for those two. Those are amazing choices. Grand design. Back to what I said about Sean, even more condensed though, and even in the art. Oh my gosh, there's tiny panels. Like little panels that if you have bad eyesight, like some of the panelists here, I'm not going to say any names. Some of the older people here on the page, it's really hard to see because they're condensing so much story to one page. It's kind of crazy. It's more so than like the X-Men Grand Design or Hulk Grand Design had a little bit more room to breathe, but for some reason Tom Scioli just crammed as much as he could into one page and one panel. You think I'd appreciate it, but I think it took away from the story, and that's just my 2 cents on it. Take it away, Curtis. What do you think of this, buddy?
I'm going to agree with you for grand design. I think that out of all the grand design entries, which there's only the 2, but the X-Men definitely is the stronger one. And then also, I'm not. There's so many great Fantastic Four stories. This doesn't need to be in the top 10. Coming of Galactus, absolutely 100%, of course. And we're going to do the combined version of this, so it'll have a little bit more. And then, yeah, Mark Waid's run. I enjoyed some of it. I had some issues with some of it, but overall, it's really good, and I love Mark Rudigo's art as well. So I'm definitely gonna put this on my list because especially this first story arc is so good.
Lens, what do you think of Gianni's choices here?
Okay, so for the Mark Waid run, I actually just recently started reading that, and I'm enjoying it a lot. So I think that's a pretty good pick. And then for the Coming of Galactus, that was actually what I was going to choose for mine, but I knew that someone else was going to choose it, so I tried to switch it up a little bit. But that one for sure, like the Coming of Galactus is just so iconic, and since we're going to combine it, that's like works perfectly. And for Grand Design, I've never read that one, but I have read a bit, or I think I did try to read a bit of like the X-Men one, and I'm guessing it's pretty similar to that one. I don't think I'm the biggest fan of that one either.
Can I just like I want to explain why I chose that because it's not my favorite story or like comic in general. I'm a big Tom Scioli fan, but when I was thinking about what should be evergreen, I immediately thought like what is easy for a new reader that could get them hooked on these characters right away. So I chose 2 stories that I consider classics, Coming of Galactus and then the Mark Waid run, and then I just wanted something that would be something really easy for a reader to grab and just kind of get the gist of who these characters are, so then they can jump off to other stories with the Fantastic Four. So I do agree with what you guys are saying, but that was kind of my mindset when picking this.
No, and that is the mentality to have when choosing evergreen, right? It's not necessarily your favorite stories. It's stories that should be out there that get people hooked on these characters or teams. So no, you were thinking right. You just picked the wrong book. See what I did there? That was a backhanded compliment. Sorry about that, Gianni.
And also I love like indie underground comics, and this has that feel to it too. So it's kind of
okay. Who's up? Oh God! Oh no, that's not Lars Torn. Sean, what do you think?
I was like, wow.
No, not
what
you.
did I do to get that kind of reaction out of you, Omar? We haven't even known each other a year.
I thought Lars.
So first of all, Gianni, I love the spirit of you choosing Grand Design, because I think it's cool, the idea that there could be different kinds of comics creators and storytelling styles present in this list. I just don't know if I love the final product of this one. I thought the Hulk Grand Design and the X-Men Grand Design were really cool. I just don't know if I felt the same way about this. Imaginauts by Mark Waid. I love Mark Waid and Mike Wieringo. Both of them did a great job. I think I could see myself putting my vote behind this depending on how things play out. And then the Coming of Galactus is just mandatory, right? Especially with the combination that was pitched earlier. Like, there's no chance. I mean, if it didn't make it on the list, this would not be an authentic list. So, guaranteed.
Yeah, then when we know something's up with Lars, like changing the votes because he hates Stanley and Jack Kirby.
No, okay. We need to stop that right now.
That's what happens when you get things taken out of context, Lars.
Yes, exactly.
What do you got to say to Gianni?
Oh, sorry. I was thinking, oh, it's his turn next. No, it's mine. Okay. No, look, yes, I worry that things have already curdled, that I'm some sort of Lee Kirby hater. Nothing could be further from the truth. I just, as I say, I don't particularly enjoy it. But then again, I don't enjoy most of the Silver Age. I just don't. It's historically important. I respect it. Would I sit around the evening reading it? Probably not. All of that said, certainly, yes, I understand the need to have Kirby and Lee on the list. I do. And The Coming of Galactus is a story that, people, whenever they talk about the history of comics or the foundations of comics, they keep swinging back to that one over and over and over and over and over again. So it only makes sense to have it on the list. If you want to fold it together into 45 through 67 or 70 or whatever it was, perfectly fine. I understand the need for it. Mark Waid's last story was actually my alternative pick. I'd have to stop and think about whether the first 6 issues are, how much they hang together in their own right, or whether they're opening a door to what follows. I normally don't do things that are at the very beginning. I was willing to do it with Hickman because I do feel it's a separate, it's a story in its own right. So I do love the Waid Roringo run. Is the beginning the best place? I'm not sure. And Grand Design certainly didn't strike me as an evergreen story. It's fine. It's fine. But is it A level, should be there forever? Not for me.
Okay. Peter, what do you think of Gianni's choices, since you invited Gianni on and you were
well, I already got my early shot on Grand Design, but I love that, I will say, people are in the comments, in the chat, saying not many of us made many risky choices for Fantastic Four the way we often do for Evergreen. And I think that's just because there's so much beloved material, and I like that Grand Design is a little bit of a riskier choice.
My Mark Miller.
Yeah.
My Mark Miller one.
Fired up.
Well, risks don't always pay off in life, Curtis. So I like that this is on there. I think it makes for a good debate, and it exposes some people to the fact that it's out there. I just don't think it's top 10 for me. Clearly, I love The Coming of Galactus, and we've already talked about merging that into mine. My only real and Lindsay's more importantly, but I think my only real complaint about Imaginauts is I kind of wish maybe you pushed a little further. I do think this story does hang on its own to Lars's concern, but I think Mark Waid starting just about any comic property is probably something that's worth being evergreen, because Mark Waid usually really starts with something really cool and foundational. I wish we were being greedy and crammed another 6 issues in there just so there could be more Mark Waid. But I mean, it's an all-time great run. I think the fact that anybody's thinking about not voting for it is kind of crazy talk.
And Larry, thoughts on these 3 choices to make it on our top 10 Fantastic Four Evergreen?
Okay, the Waid and Moringo, absolutely. And I agree, it could probably go a little further in. And I'm all for the expanded Lee Kirby. Unpopular opinion, I know people like these Grand Design books, but it's just not my thing. I think maybe it's partly because I'm old and I feel like I've lived most of that history, so I don't need that, and I also don't think that the evergreens all have to be new reader friendly, because presumably there'd be a lot of these books in these smaller formats, right? So there's room for all types of stories, I think. So,
well said. All right, we are moving on to Lars.
Oh no!
Here we go, Lars.
Here we
All
go.
right.
Here.
What do we got here, Lars? Okay, The Trial of Reed Richards is actually a really solid pick. That is a good one. There's a lot of good John Byrne stories, especially with the little twist as to why he's on trial, which I think you gave away a little bit earlier, and that's okay. It's an old story. The Bridge, Solve Everything. I don't think you need Dark Reign in there, so I kind of like Gianni's mapping a little better. Is it Gianni? You had the Jonathan Hickman, right, or Sean?
No, Sean. Yeah.
Okay. I
think take credit away from Sean once again.
Yeah, what's going on with that?
I'm sorry. Sorry about that. That's on me. I like Dark Reign. I think it's a great story. It's the first one he wrote. It's the one that kicks off the Omni, and I remember reading that when it was coming out, and I was like, man, whoever this guy is, he could really take over the Fantastic Four book one day. And sure enough, he did. So is it necessary? No, but it's such a good book. But it does focus more on Valeria and Franklin. And I kind of like that because that is kind of like what Jonathan Hickman does a lot. It's going to be tough, man. I don't know. Secret Wars, I'm surprised you're the only one that brought it up. I'm surprised that didn't show up as much as like I almost picked a Doom story like Triumph and Torment. That's like my all-time favorite Doctor Doom story. But I was like, surely we'll do a Doctor Doom Evergreen one day. So I'm going to leave that out. Secret Wars is solid. That might actually get my vote. So it may not just be a it's a every Marvel character story, but it's a good Fantastic Four story too, because they play such an important part. And honestly, at one time, it was kind of like the bookend to the Fantastic Four at Marvel Comics, because we thought there were going to be no more Fantastic Four comics after this, and there weren't for a couple of years. The only one I may not like, I may go with Sean's mapping more for the Hickman. And then the Byrne one, as much as I like that book. Larry, do you have any of that in one of your maps?
I have all of it except 262.
Huh. Okay. Curtis, what do you think of Lars' choices here?
I have not read Secret Wars, so I can't really comment on that one. Don't really know anything about it. I also haven't read Dark Reign Fantastic Four, so I don't know how that fits in with the overall story, but I am going to vote for Hickman. It'll just probably be Sean's Hickman version. Trial of Reed Richards is really great, and I almost put that on my list as well. Like, this is a fantastic story. One of my favorite concepts of Galactus actually comes out of there, where we find out that every race views Galactus in a different way. Like, they all see him in a different being, and there's this one splash page where there's all these tiny little boxes of the different appearances of Galactus, how different races see him. And I thought that was really cool. And so, yeah, there's got to be Byrne on there somewhere. This is pretty good. I'm not sure exactly right now which Byrne I'm going to vote for, because maybe I'll vote for all of them. I don't know.
Dude, I love that you haven't read Secret Wars yet, but you've read all of Hickman.
Yes, I've read all of Hickman. I just haven't read Secret Wars.
Huh. Okay. Linz, what do you think of Lars' choices here?
Okay, so my backup was Trial Reed Richards, so I like that pick. I think it's really interesting, like how they reveal that Galactus is not like necessarily evil. It's just he's just a force of nature. Like he's needed in existence. And then as for Jonathan Hickman, I think I prefer Sean's the issues that he included. I haven't read Dark Reign, but I think I would prefer the way that Sean divided them up. And then as for Secret Wars, I also thought about including Secret Wars because I think it truly is like it would fit as a Fantastic Four story because they're a big part of it. And I think it's interesting how with Secret Wars, the Fantastic Four kind of started the Marvel universe, right? And so with Secret Wars, they're kind of like ending an era or like starting a new era. I don't know. I think that's interesting. So
Yes.
I like that pick as well.
Sean, take it away, buddy. What do you got to say?
Man, I got a bone to pick. I did not think that Secret Wars was eligible for this because it is an event. I absolutely would have chosen this. This is one of my favorite stories of all time, and I didn't realize it was eligible. But given that it is eligible, there is no way I won't vote for this. This is guaranteed. It's one of the best stories on this entire panel, one of Marvel's best events. I argue Marvel's last good event. This was tremendous. I agree with what's been said about the discrepancy between my and Lars's breakdown of Hickman's Fantastic Four, and then also with the Trial of Reed Richards, Larry had said that his choices included this, and I think I like that more just because it's a little more substantial. I really like the idea of these kind of being able to give you, if it's not going to be 15 issues straight, I like the idea that you can piecemeal great stories and kind of put them together and tell something really good. So I think I might go more with what Larry suggested, but great stories, all of these for sure.
Gianni, what about you? What do you think of Lars' choices?
These are great picks. I love seeing all the Hickman representation. And I agree with the Secret Wars pick because although Secret Wars is the finale of Hickman's Avengers run, at the core of it, it's a story about Reed Richards and Victor Von Doom. And I agree with Sean. I think that this is one of, if not the best Marvel events ever. And I love that pick. I agree with everybody that I think Sean's mapping of the start of Hickman's run is a bit better. I do love the Dark Reign Fantastic Four miniseries, but I think that it's not needed necessarily if you want to dive into Hickman's entire run. And this is going to be tough for me to choose between the two John Byrne stories because I love Child of Reed Richards as well. And I think that it's arguably the most famous story from his run, so that would be a really good contender for the Evergreen list. But overall, I really, really love these picks.
Okay, Lars, I know how you feel about yourself. Peter,
do you? It's complicated, Omar. It's so complicated. There's no question for me more deadly than how are you today?
Oh God, poor Lars. Go easy on him, Peter. What do you think?
Never. So look, I actually really like this first pick. I'm glad that you all reminded us. I think it was just Curtis who reminded us that this is the one that established that everybody sees Galactus as their own version of Galactus. That's one of my favorite concepts in all of cosmic Marvel. I refer to it and think about it all the time. I think this one, for me, in terms of excerpting some of Byrne, is a little bit more attractive than the Invisible Woman one. Maybe I don't know. I like them both, but this one feels like a little bit more of like a big Marvel story that also happens to be about Reed, which makes it a little more attractive to me. That said, because this is entirely in Larry's third pick, except for 282, I'm kind of like, ooh, could I like just, could I get that whole dish with all the sides if I just pick Larry's instead of picking this one? So that's my concern.
But you won't, though, because the actual trial of Reed Richards is 262.
But where does the Galactus thing happen? Because that's where I want. That's
262.
It is 262.
No, then I might have to vote for this one.
The Galactus splash page with that concept is 262.
Yeah, it is 262.
Well, then I'm voting for this
trial issue.
That is one of my favorite splashes and concepts in all of Marvel, so you probably have my vote. Good job, Lars. Putting 262 in there. You got me.
That was my clever strategy. Thank you. Yes.
Secret Wars, I am possibly the third biggest Jonathan Hickman hater on the internet. I don't know how to feel about this one because it is the end of the Fantastic Four story. And I love that idea that we just floated that the Fantastic Four was the beginning of the Marvel superhero universe. So they should be the end. And I do believe to a degree Marvel ended at Secret Wars and we're just reading kind of the kind of like gross denouement afterbirth of it at this point. But I question if this is fully a Fantastic Four story because so many of the rest of them are sidelined or like brainwashed or non-participants in so much of it. And for that reason, I don't know if it's a fully satisfying Fantastic Four story. That said, if Sean's pick of the beginning of Hickman gets on the list, then this is great to get on the end of the list. Clearly, there's about to be a movie. I guess I'm just on the fence of if it's more of a Doom story, which is fine to have here. And if this was a Doom Evergreen, I'd be like, hell yeah, this is one of the best Doom stories of all time. I guess I'm just on the fence about if I believe it's fully a Fantastic Four story. And I don't know if there's anything anybody could say to convince me. That's, I've read it several times. I just, that's where I am on it.
How is it that I've known you for so many years and you still manage to surprise me with your ridiculous takes?
I loved Hickman when he was doing indie comics. I loved Fantastic Four, and then he lost me in Avengers, and it's been a rocky road since then. A rocky road.
What about House of Powers of X? You were dissecting that for 2 hours a week.
I did, and then his X-Men run unfortunately came after that.
Whoa!
That hurt my soul. Everything you just said. I do love his indie work, and if Black Monday Murders doesn't finish within the next 5 years, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
One day. Larry, what do you think of Larso's picks here?
Well, on this, the FF, even though I include most of this, I love this mapping, so I would vote for this. The Hickman stuff, I think I like Lars's mapping better because I loved Dark Reign Fantastic Four. Thought it was fantastic.
Ooh, okay.
I have not read Hickman's Secret Wars, so.
Okay. Wow, you and Peter, I mean, no, who was it? Curtis.
Yes.
Curtis, you and Curtis need to come on an old reader, new reader, so we can talk about Secret Wars, dude. Because I can't believe you guys haven't read that. All right, we are moving on to. No, I'm just kidding. It's Crisis. Let's go ahead and pick on him. Let's see what he did wrong here.
Well, we kind of already talked about.
We've established,
all three of these.
Yeah, we have. Okay, I think. You know what? I think yeah. I think I'm in, man. If we move that to 40 to 50, right? Is that what was decided from 40 to 50?
45 to 60. So we get the power, the cosmic doom.
45 to 60. Okay. I like that mapping better. You and Curtis did the Nobody Gets Out Alive mapping, and it looks the same. And then Fantastic Four, I like what Lynn's did better. Because I don't like, you know me, dude. I see that. I'm not going to buy it. It's missing issues 8 and 9. Forget it, dude. I'm out.
Yeah, it's just I love the Johnny Storm sexy times in 25 so much.
It is really
that
good.
That could be Evergreen Part 2.
But I gotta go with Lynn's map better. I liked hers. No, it's some good choices. Yeah. So you played it safe with the exception of Tom DeFalco and Paul Ryan. I didn't know we were gonna have 3 Tom DeFalco, Paul Ryan fans in the stream today. That's awesome. Curtis, what do you think of this? I know how you feel about Nobody Gets Out Alive, but what about the Jack Kirby and Ryan North, which I think you've said?
Well, I've already addressed both of those in previous ones as well. I'm on board for all 3 of these with the amended mapping.
Okay. And Lynn's?
Same thing. I've basically already said my opinions. So.
Okay. Sean, anything to add?
Nope. Same opinions.
Damn you, Peter. I don't like where this is going. Gianni, you want to backstab Peter? Now's your chance.
No, I can't. I like these picks. I can't really say anything about the Tom DeFalco stuff because, again, that's a big blind spot for me. But you guys have convinced me to read that soon. So I like these picks. But that mapping for Ryan North is kind of abysmal. I'm gonna skip that if I see that on the shelf. I'm immediately skipping. I'm like Omar. I can't with the
Johnny,
missing
have you
issues.
Seen what happens when I bring newer runs to the show? I usually get a beatdown, usually bigger than the beatdown than you got for Grand Design. So I was ready to talk. I had to be ready to defend every issue because somebody was going to be like, I don't know, it's kind of boring, and so I had to be ready to get. They're all great. So that's I usually hate stuff that skips issues, but I just was battening down the hatches for the beatdown that just never came. Peter,
can you please use Gianni's blurb of your mapping is abysmal on Crushing Crisis website?
Yeah, every time I do a mapping post from now on, I'm going to be a noted podcaster from the Fan Pal, Johnny, says your mapping is abysmal. Also, Curtis, clearly we could get Johnny on the Epic Marvel podcast. Have you covered No One Gets Out Alive yet? He could read it and join you.
That's true. I have not. I don't really haven't done the podcast in a long time though, so I'd have to.
So we have to bully you more.
You called him out.
That's right.
You called him out.
Well, he's blown the coop. Now he's doing DC Finest.
That's all over the place, man. He has backstabbed everybody.
Just like comics.
Lars, what hot take you got?
What hot take? I mean, we've dealt with most of these before. I'm perfectly happy.
We already heard his hot take. He doesn't like Tom DeFalco.
Ouch. That's
right. Is he not selling enough copies of Wizard Magazine that you have him on the blacklist?
Again, we seem to be pushing me into the realm of hatred here. I don't.
No. You did that on your own.
Well, I just
I mean,
I
you
just
hate
Hates
Stanley
Jack
and Jack
Kirby,
Kirby.
hates Tom
You hate
DeFalco,
Tom
hates
DeFalco.
Ryan North.
no.
Why
North
do
is
you
the
hate
worst.
Ryan North? How could you dislike
no.
Dinosaur Comics?
No.
I want Lars to snap on one of these one day.
I was into Ryan North in his Dinosaur Comics days. So I was into him before he started writing.
Before one of these panelists was born.
Yes, exactly.
Really? Guilty.
No, Ryan North, absolutely yes. I can see the logic in consolidating the mapping, but that's fine. I accept, that there'll have to be a Lee and Kirby on the list, and I think the merger scheme works well, so that's perfectly fine. When I think of great Fantastic Four writers, it's just a long list ahead of Tom DeFalco. I mean, I do think of Jonathan Hickman. I think of Ryan North. I think of Mark Waid. I think of John Byrne. I even think of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And that pushes Tom DeFalco quite a bit down the list. And Paul Ryan's art is, for me, persistently acceptable. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
It's okay. Peter, no one loves you more than yourself. So we're gonna move on to Larry. Larry, what do you think?
The only one I've read here is the Stanley Jack Kirby, and as I said, I'm for the expanded version.
Okay. And now we are moving on to Larry's lot. We are flying through this, Peter. Look at this. I'm really proud of us. All right. Larry, holy crap. Somewhere out there, John Byrne is sitting down on his John Byrne throne, rubbing his John Byrne statue, going, yes. Man, I love John Byrne's run. But if I had to pick one, I think it would be book 3. Because with John Byrne, there's a little bit. I love looking at the evolution of an artist in books. But if I'm going to make something evergreen, then there has to be a hook. There has to be a good story that keeps people entertained. And I feel like the earlier stuff just doesn't have what the later stuff does. So I think book 3 is the one. Even has a badass cover of Dr. Doom invading Tiny Town. So I think that's the one that gets the vote for me. Although book 2 has the most iconic Fantastic Four cover, though, out of these 3. Woo! It's hard because these are all good, but I think if I had to pick one, it would be that one or the Invisible Woman book. But that one has the Trial of Reed. No, it doesn't have the Trial of Reed Richards. Son of a bitch! All right. Maybe book 3. Curtis, what do you think of Larry's choices here?
Well, first of all, I loved that you have pushed the envelope here and skirted the rules a little bit. I think that's great. However, in keeping with the rules and trying to name stories rather than eras or omnis or whatever, I'm having a hard time picking any one of these in particular, especially since I'd have to remind myself what the stories are within them. I can't remember off the top of my head. So I'm not sure exactly what. I'm probably not going to vote for one, just because I think his Fantastic Four run is better than his 2-in-1 and team up stuff. But honestly, I don't really know. Which is the one where Sue has her miscarriage?
That's like in the 260s, I think.
That would be in book.
Yeah,
Oh, that's not in this book at all? Because I love that issue. I think
that is actually after all 3 of these picks. Yeah.
That's the one with Doc Ock, right? Like the one with Doc Ock stars in it.
Yeah, that's in the 2. That's slightly later than this.
I want to say it is. It's like
I want to choose for John Byrne book 4.
Oh, and then book 4 would actually have Fantastic Four 262.
Yeah, it would have the trial as well.
What the hell?
We need all of them.
Is it 266? Is that it? I cannot remember. 262?
Trial of Reed Richards is 262.
No. The miscarriage issue with Doc Ock.
Oh, miscarriage.
Is that 266? I can't remember. It's before the Malice arc. So anyway, sorry, didn't mean to distract the conversation. Linz, what do you think about Larry's choices?
Okay, I think this lineup is insane. I think, like Curtis said, I just off the top of my head, like I don't know what issue. But the third book does have one issue that connects to the trial of Reed Richards. So that's why I feel like I'm going to lean towards book 3. And the cover is cool, like you said.
Cover is cool. And Sean, what do you think of these choices, buddy?
So I haven't read any of this. This is the blind spot for me when it comes to the Fantastic Four. But the cover of John Byrne Book 1 is one of the greatest covers of all time. That is like an iconic, for me, top 50 cover. That's insane. The Book 3 though, not having the Trial of Reed Richards stuff, I feel like we need that. That, like, if we're gonna put John Byrne on, that's what we need the most. So I don't know if I'm inclined to vote for any of these based on that. But if I were going to, I was kind of swayed by what Omar was talking about with Book 3, so maybe that's what I would vote for.
Okay. And Gianni, what do you think about the love for John Byrne here?
So here's the thing. I like John Byrne's Fantastic Four. I think there's a lot of fun stories in it. And I agree with Lynn's that I think I would lean towards book 3 if I had to choose one of these. But if I had to choose, like, out of all the John Byrne representation we've gotten so far in this whole thing, I'm leaning more towards the Trial of Reed Richards pick from earlier. Just because I think that having just one story as an evergreen would be a little better. And I think that that's the most famous story and out of this entire run. So that's kind of where my thought process is right now.
Okay. Lars.
Well, I kind of admire the way you just gone for broke here. I mean, it is kind of all or nothing. I mean, it's like you're playing Battleship and you've heaped all of your ships in one corner, which means that you either win completely or it's Pearl Harbor, and there's not much in between. So, points to you for courage. This is difficult because, again, not having John Byrne would be insane. But,
Right.
the framework of the guidelines was try to pick a story as much as you can. We're picking stories, and I think trying to shoehorn all of John Byrne's run in there does have some problems because, first of all, I would reject book 1, regardless of format, because those issues you cite, he's not yet John Byrne when he does those. He's still a very good artist, but in the history of boxing, like before Muhammad Ali was Muhammad Ali, he was just a very good boxer, and then he was Ali. And so this is John Byrne's not yet.
Cassius Clay.
He's Cassius Clay. This is John Byrne's not yet Muhammad Ali phase. And then book 2, yeah, I mean, it is good. It takes Byrne a while to warm up on this title. It does. And those early issues, yeah, you can sense that they are good. They're strong. But it's only when you get into book 3 that you're, if you were there at the time, you were like, oh, this is something special. Oh, every issue is a breath of fresh air. Oh, every issue is hitting it for me. So I don't think I vote for 1 and 2. And again, if we're going by the parameters of voting for stories, I might leaning against 3, even though 3 is pretty great material, really.
Okay. And last but not least, Peter, what do you think of Larry's choices here?
I think we're getting too hung up on the stories thing because that's like saying we're not going to vote for Ryan North's because the stories it's a lot of 1 and 2 shot stories. Like it's still a collection of comic books that are part of a run that form a narrative. I mean, just because I think that Larry could have helped his case a little bit if he gave them some catchy marketing title like some of us did, maybe. But I kind of reject that they're not stories thing. I do reject though. I think Larry, unfortunately, you waste a little bit of ammunition here by starting with that book 1, which is fine. But I actually very much agree with Lars there. It's fine, but John Byrne was John Byrne, the writer, the artist. But I do agree that he wasn't cooking with gas at that point. It seems like a lot of us really loved the late 250s and 260s. And I think if you had another book after this that was 258 to 270 something, it sounds like we'd be all over it like gangbusters, because a lot of us are trending towards that later stuff. I actually do like 232 to 245. I don't think it has to have like a slam bang thrill ride greatest hits ever story in it in order to work well. And there are a lot of good issues in there, including that one that the cover is from. And then I actually really love a lot of book 3. If I only could pick one, which there is no such rule, but I might choose book 3 over book 2. And I just don't think we can all get hung up on that. It's like a 3. Like if it got picked for Evergreen, we would call it like Dr. Doom and the crushes them under his heel or something. Like we would just make up a name.
A horrible, awful title.
Yeah, right. Just like Marvel would give Cosmic X-Men. So I definitely not voting for book 1. Really enjoy book 2 and might vote for it. And I think book 3, I would say, is the strongest material. Kind of wish we had a book 4 to talk about and vote on too.
All right, and now it is my turn. Curtis, give it to me, buddy. What do you think of these amazing choices?
Well, let's see here. I'm gonna have to definitely go for the DeFalco era. This is really, really great stuff. I think that cover there with the die cut 4 is the first issue I ever read of Fantastic Four.
Seriously? That's
yeah,
the one
yeah,
where
yeah.
it's the aftermath of the big reveal, and
yeah,
awesome. Okay.
It's really good. It hooked me right from the start, and then I had to find the follow-up issues, and it just spiraled downhill from there in terms of the space in my house. Okay, New Fantastic Four. I do love this era. Not as much as I love Tom DeFalco, but Walt Simonson delivers a pretty good Fantastic Four as well. So I think I'm gonna vote for that as well. Love that artwork, and the issues leading up to this that you picked also, and the ones after, are very, very good. And the only one I'm torn on is Fantastic Four versus X-Men, because I'm not sure that I completely liked the miniseries in general. Man, it's been a long. I think I read it when the Epic came out. The last time I read it was when the Epic came out like 10 years ago. So I don't even really remember a whole lot about it. But is this no, Franklin's already Power Pack. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the Power Pack.
Yeah. I don't know. Just I have nothing really to say about this one other than I don't remember it. So it must not have left a lasting impression on me.
Okay. And Lynn's first time on the channel. You want to come back, don't you?
Oh, don't play that game.
Don't let him do that to you, Lance. Don't let it.
That's not real. We vote against Omar all the time.
I was asking a rhetorical, hypothetical question. Just asking. Is she having fun?
It's true. Omar is famously charged of the Light Brigade on this channel, so don't feel
so easy on people. Lynn's, sorry about that. No pressure.
Okay, so funny enough, all of your picks, I haven't read any of these, so there's not much I could add. I will say though, the New Fantastic Four one, I have been tempted to read that one. So I guess out of all of them, that's the one I'm leaning towards.
You've got some homework to do now.
Yeah,
I
sounds
know.
like an New Fantastic Four. Oh, it's so fun. It's so fun. I loved it. Okay, that's okay, Linz. Sean, what do you got for me, buddy?
Yeah, so you went weird, man. You went off the beaten path, but what I love about your Fantastic Four versus X-Men and New Fantastic Four choices is that they represent the Fantastic Four's dealings with characters who aren't themselves. The Fantastic Four and X-Men go together fantastically. Chris Claremont being the writer of this, I think that's great, getting that representation in there. And Walt Simonson, come on, right? Like, the Fantastic Four aren't always Reed, Sue, Ben, and Johnny. Sometimes it's She-Hulk. Sometimes it's Ghost Rider. And I love representing that. I think that's necessary. So I'm leaning more towards voting yes on those. I haven't read, nor do I know anything about or have opinions about the Monster Among Us, so I don't have anything to say about that.
Okay.
You have some homework to do, too.
Yeah, man. I see some old reader, new readers coming out now, like with you
Whenever
all
you're
in
ready.
mind. All right, Gianni, what you got? You know what? I'm not gonna even do it because Peter made me feel guilty earlier, so I'm not even gonna say it, Gianni. You speak with your heart. What do you think, Gianni?
All right, so I already talked about how the Tom DeFalco stuff is a big blind spot for me, so I don't really have much to say about that. I love these two other picks. I love New Fantastic Four. I was this close to putting it on mine. And I am a massive X-Men fan. So if we can get any X-Men representation, especially the Claremont stuff, because that's like my cup of tea right there, I'm all for it. So I love that pick. I love that pick. And New Fantastic Four, I love seeing that. I love that story. It's a lot of fun. I love the Walter Simonson era of Fantastic Four. I think it's really underrated. So I love those two picks. Yeah, I love them.
All right. And yeah, Lars. What do you got, Lars?
Well, I've already kind of expressed that again, like, Tom DeFalco and Paul Ryan would never wind up on a list of comics that I hate or can't stand or don't want around. But there's just such a long line of FF creators and stories ahead of them that, on an evergreen list, it doesn't really make the cut for me. It's kind of that way with New Fantastic Four too. I recognize that it's good. It's just, is it an evergreen pick for me? There's an awful lot of evergreen picks ahead of that one. So Fantastic Four versus X-Men it's an odd choice. I do like it. I do. I've read it. I did enjoy it. I don't think John Bogdanov's art is anything special. Because for better or worse, comics is a marriage between the writer and the artist. And there's an awful lot of books in here that are great story and great art. And his art strikes me as average. Claremont stories
are good when it's inked by Austin, though. I will say that. It's different than when he inks himself or like Klaus Janson inking him. But go ahead.
Yeah, and that could be, yeah. Claremont's story, Claremont is, reliable value. This one falls at an odd point for the characters. I mean, it's happening during a particular space and time because, like, Kitty is, kind of in her intangible phase. She's kind of become Ghost Kitty, and the characters are in that very specific, slightly after Mutant Massacre phase, and therefore it could be a little awkward for someone coming in from the outside to wonder, well, why is everyone like this? I do like it, but I've got those concerns. I'm not sure I'm going to vote on it.
Okay. All right. Peter, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing good so far. Don't mess this up. Go ahead.
I will say, as much as I love getting the knives out for your picks, I'm a little bit more of a fence sitter on all three of these today, and I'm having trouble deciding which way I'm going to go, honestly.
Okay.
Fantastic Four and X-Men, I think the temptation is to be like, Omar picked X-Men, which I've been enjoying saying in the chat when you're not paying attention. But honestly, it's a good Fantastic Four story because it's about Fantastic Four having to kind of like negotiate with Doom and the X-Men negotiating with Doom, and like both of them having different kinds of feelings about that. And I think because it's using the X-Men as a family because of how they care about Kitty and comparing the X-Men to Fantastic Four through that lens, I actually think it really still works as a Fantastic Four story. It's almost like Claremont, like Fantastic Fourizing the X-Men rather than X-Mening the Fantastic Four. And so it's actually pretty good. It stands alone well. It's I don't how do we say his name? Bogdanov?
It's John Bogdanov. You have to put the stress on Dan. Bogdanov.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like Bogdanov's art. I think it's really, for 80s art, it's like really clear and expressive, and especially with so many young characters. A lot of people, John Byrne, can't draw little characters. They just look like old people that have been shrunken down. Bogdanov actually draws young characters well. So on the fence there, leaning towards yes. New Fantastic Four, I think I think it has to be yes. Is it personally my favorite? No. We all know that I don't love Art Adams. But I think that, especially in like an MCU world, that idea that the Fantastic Four can be any four characters because the family is expansive, and then having these four particular characters is really fun. I think, it's also got Simonson art in it. Some people in the chat have been saying, Omar, you should have pushed it even further to pick up the TVA arc that happens right after this.
To 354?
I guess, yeah.
I think I could do that, right? It's still under. Yeah, sure, let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's
and
add
even
it.
without that, I think it's pretty strong. Is it my all-time favorite Fantastic Four? No. And part of me like rankles a little like, oh, why are we wasting a spot on picking people that are not the Fantastic Four being the Fantastic Four? But that's why I in a humane gesture picked that cover rather than just the cover with Wolverine and Ghost Rider and and Hulk on it, because I wanted to show that actually it's not just about them and Spider-Man, it's actually about the kind of expansive boundaries of the team. So I think I've almost talked myself into the first two. I will say I love the Tom DeFalco run. I've always, it's one of those things that when I got on the internet to start talking about comics on the internet, I expected everybody to talk about Tom DeFalco Fantastic Four at the level they talk about like Walt Simonson Thor. To me, it's that good. But
That's not the
I
case.
don't know that it starts as strong. I think when I was going through these issues just now, it's a lot of little onesie twosie stories that I'm not the most excited about. So it's good. I love it. I think it should be an omnibus. I don't know if this part of the run should be evergreen on its own.
There's a lot of weird villains in there, like one-offs that you never see again, like Oculus, and so yeah, it doesn't have the same sort of overarching story that what's the other one? Nobody Gets Out Alive has.
Nobody Gets Out Alive. I think this is more of a how do you deal with these characters that thought they were somebody else. I don't know. I didn't know anybody else was going to pick a Tom DeFalco or Paul Ryan book, so I'm glad somebody else did, though. Larry, last but not least, what do you think of these choices? Then we can get to voting.
I have not read book 2 and 3 here.
Okay.
I actually recently read the FF versus X-Men. I rescued that premiere hardcover from a box of Second and Charles trades that Kristen was about to get rid of.
Oh, okay.
And I liked it, but I don't know if it's evergreen material.
Okay. And John, I did not miss your super chat, buddy. I just wanted you to know that, yes, Johnny was down for Alien Lovin'. And you know what? Still is Ryan North's run. Just saying. All right, Peter, now we vote, right?
Before we
We
vote.
do, we vote.
I'm sorry, I'm stuffing my mouth with cherries. Before we vote, I would like to attempt to philosophically seduce Sean. And to suggest
that's the best way to seduce me.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. So if we were to combine our Jonathan Hickman FF choices, then I think we could both be winners. And all we have to do is just take your mapping and add on Dark Reign Fantastic Four, which is indeed where the Hickman era begins. And you do in there, again, it's important because when the Hickman era opens in the main title, by that point, Reed has kind of betrayed Sue, based upon what happens in Dark Reign. I mean, there's a point, I won't give it all away, but there's a point where Sue, for once, orders Reed, you're going to do this thing. And he does not do this thing. And that informs upon the main run. So I think if we just take your mapping and add on Dark Reign, we can both be winners. It puts us a bit over the limit, but hey, the rules on this are so fungible anyway.
Well, no. Hold on. There's a difference between 15 or 16 and 15 and 20, which is what you're trying to do right now.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Sean very carefully curated this pick to be exactly 15 issues.
Did he?
Well,
He also left out issue 5 of the Ryan North run. So
Because it was over the page count. I was trying to be
Because he
consider the
hates
page
witches. Burn them.
count. No,
he
I
said
love
earlier.
witches. Introduce me to one.
Eligible witches. Get at him. Sean
Okay.
at Comics
well,
Pal.
I agree that, I have to go back and look at those actual issues. I appreciate what you've done here, trying to map the hits of the Hickman era. I don't think that's where it properly begins. I do think it properly begins with Dark Reign.
So I agree with what you were saying, and I totally know what you're talking about, and you are right. The problem that I have, and the reason why I'm going to have to reject your offer, is because the consequence of Reed's betrayal does not occur within the confines of the issues that we're limited to. Therefore, it happening doesn't play out for the reader of this.
Yes. Well, it impacts on the first story, though. It impacts on what's going through Reed's mind in the first story, because everything in the first story is happening because he betrays Sue. All of it. And then when he swings around to her,
argue about your books.
and then when he swings around to her at the end, I think I think the punch of the end of the first story is more meaningful because he has betrayed her when that opens.
All right, let's vote on Curtis's books. You too.
All
Okay,
right,
hold on a
actually, I
second.
think-
Just
Yeah.
before we vote, I just want to say that I've got to step out. I've
Oh, yes,
I've
yes.
made my votes in behind the scenes
Thank you,
already.
Kurt.
So Peter, you can say what I voted or whatever if you want to. But I want to
Sure.
thank everybody for having me on the panel and being a part of this and voting for my books. And thank you for Omar for having me on.
You are welcome, buddy. You're always welcome on, and we will see you later. Curtis,
Take care,
Epic
Curtis.
Marvel
See ya.
Podcast.
That's right. See ya.
Okay, there he goes. I hate that guy. All right, Curtis, Epic Marvel Podcast right there. Thank you so much, James. All right, so Curtis's choices here. Peter, you ready?
All right, so folks, it's a yes or no. There are no maybes. There are no coming backs. There are no takesies backsies. So we're going to do each person for all three of the choices, starting with Lynn's. Gets to be our first voter of the day. Lynn's, a yes or no on Nobody Gets Out Alive.
No.
Okay.
Oh.
Lynn's on Mark Miller and Hitch on World's Greatest.
No.
And Lynn's on Fantastic Four Full Circle.
Yes.
Okay. Sean, Nobody Gets Out Alive.
No.
Sean, World's Greatest.
Yes.
And Sean, Full Circle.
Yes.
Johnny, Nobody Gets Out Alive.
No.
World's Greatest.
Nope.
And Full Circle.
Yes.
Lars, Nobody Gets Out Alive.
No, thank you. They do get out alive.
They do get it. Spoilers, some people get out alive.
Spoilers, they don't all die.
Greatest, which is perhaps a misnomer coming to Miller, but what is your vote?
Yes, I do enjoy that one.
Okay, and Full Circle.
Again, weird because I've not actually read it. Yes, fine. Yes, I agree.
Okay, I'm a big old no on Miller, and I think I'm a yes on Full Circle. Larry, Nobody Gets Out Alive.
No.
Ouch.
World's Greatest.
Yes.
And Full Circle.
Yes.
Okay, Omar. Nobody Gets Out
y-
Alive.
Yeah, let's do it.
World's Greatest.
Hell no.
Ooh, and Fantastic Four Full Circle.
Yeah, that gets in.
Well, surprises early in the show. We have our first universal pick because Curtis, of course, picked it with Fantastic Four Full Circle. Everybody voted for it, so that is an evergreen already.
Let's add issue 51 to that, and you got yourself a stew.
Yeah, well, and we all said the expanded one would be lovely. Let's move on now to Lindsay's picks.
Okay.
So, as a reminder, this first pick on Lindsay's picks, we've expanded to be issues 45 to 60, which covers several of us who picked those books. So, Sean, what do you vote on that expanded version of this pick?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you vote on Becoming Invisible Woman?
No.
And you've already picked Ryan North, so we can move on. Johnny's already picked. He's part of our new conglomerate pick on that first one. So, Johnny, what do you vote on Invisible Woman?
Ooh, this is tough. I'm gonna have to go no.
Oh, okay. And what do you vote on Ryan North?
Definitely yes.
All right. Lars, our conglomerate Lee Kirby book.
Yes.
Okay. Becoming the Invisible Woman, Lars.
Oh, this one's so tough. I will vote. Oh my god. I'll vote no.
And Ryan North.
Is this the mapping we settled on? Are we going 1 through 15?
Yeah, we're just going 1, 2 through 15.
Then yes, absolutely.
Okay. I have already picked the conglomerate pick. I'm going to go yes on Invisible Woman. I just love it too much to get into quibbles about if it like features enough of them. And I'm already yes on Ryan North. Larry, the Coming of Galactus, Black Panther, Cosmic Doom, 45 to 60.
Yes.
All right. Larry on Becoming the Invisible Woman.
Yes.
And Larry on Ryan North.
No.
Okay. Omar, Stanley and Kirby.
Yes.
Omar on Becoming the Invisible Woman.
I like when female comic characters have progression, so yes.
Oh, okay. And Omar on Ryan North.
Yeah, man, that's it. 1 through 15. I like that.
Hold on. I think I missed writing down your vote on Ryan North, Larry. Were you a yes or a no? Oh, Larry?
That'd be a no.
A no on Ryan North. Okay. All right, we have another universal pick. Surprising no one. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby have made the cut. Let's go on to Sean now. So Sean, we've already talked about Ryan North, so we're going to start with Life Story and just talk about Life Story and Sean's version of the Hickman map. So Lynn's on Life Story.
No.
And Lynn's on Hickman.
Yes.
Okay. Johnny on Life Story.
No.
And Johnny on Hickman.
Yes, I prefer this mapping, so yeah.
Okay. Lars on Life Story.
You're muted.
Sorry.
Lars.
Sorry. People prefer me that way. No, thank you.
And Lars on this version of Hickman.
Oh, well, this. I mean, I prefer mine better. I do like this one. Oh God, I don't know. Am I just voting against myself? Yes, fine. Yes.
I'm a no on Life Story, and I'm a yes on Hickman. Larry, Life Story.
No.
Larry on Hickman.
No, I'm going to go with Lars's on this.
Ooh,
Very
spicy.
kind of you.
Omar on Life Story.
No.
And Omar on Hickman.
Yeah, that's the one.
All right, now we're moving on to Johnny's picks. And that middle pick we've already voted on at this point, so we're doing the first and the third pick. So Lynn's on Imaginauts by Wade and Maringo.
Yes.
Can we expand that? I'm so sorry, Linz. Can we expand that to Unthinkable?
I don't know, where does Unthinkable end?
Is that the last one? No.
No, it's the one right after this with
okay.
with Doom.
Okay.
That would be up to our friend Johnny.
I'm down with that. Yeah, I think Unthinkable is 6 issues, so I'm pretty sure it should be good.
Yeah, it still comes in under.
And
Okay, cool. Sorry,
I'm
Linz.
totally down with that. Yeah.
Now you can.
All right, back to Linz's time in the spotlight on Imaginauts and Unthinkable by Wade and Maringo.
Yes.
Okay, and what about Grand Design?
No.
Okay, Sean on Wade and Maringo.
Yes.
And Sean on Grand Design.
No.
Lars on Wade and Maringo.
I feel like is there any other Wade on the list? Or is
No.
this just no? It's this or nothing.
This is it.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm going to vote yes.
Okay, and on Grand Design.
No, thank you.
I am a yes on Wade and Maringo and a no on Grand Design. Larry, Wade and Maringo
Yes.
and Grand Design.
No.
And Omar, Wade and Maringo
Yes.
and Grand Design.
You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say yes. Gianni kind of gave it a good pitch. And
All
I
right.
appreciate it. And then people may like it, like coming from an indie perspective.
I agree it was a good pitch. So let's go on to Lars's picks, which could wind up being controversial.
Just
You will
like
see.
Lars. Just like Lars.
Just like Lars, our
Yeah,
boy
that's
Lars.
it's pretty on brand, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. Okay, so Lynn's beginnings and endings and the trial of Reed Richards. Oh.
Is she
Is
muted?
she frozen?
Who's frozen?
Is she
Me?
frozen?
Somebody?
Oh, there we go.
She might have just dropped. So, she's back. Lynn's.
Yes, I said yes. Yeah.
Oh, so
yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. The Lars abridged version of Hickman
No.
and Secret Wars.
I think so. Yeah.
All right. Sean on beginnings and endings and trial of Reed Richards.
Yes.
Sean on the shorter version of Hickman.
No.
And Sean on Secret Wars.
Absolutely yes.
Johnny on beginnings and endings and trial of Reed Richards.
Yeah.
Johnny on Bridge and Solve Everything.
No, I prefer Sean's mapping.
And Johnny on Secret Wars.
I'm gonna go with yeah.
Okay. I'm a yes on Reed Richards because I just love 262. I'm a no on this Hickman map. And I am a no on Secret Wars. I don't think it's enough of a Fantastic Four story. Larry, beginnings and ending and trial of Reed Richards.
Yes.
Okay. Larry on Bridge and Solve Everything.
Yes.
And Larry on Secret Wars.
No.
Okay. And Omar, beginnings and ending and trial of Reed Richards.
Yes.
Bridge and Solve Everything.
No.
Secret Wars.
Yeah.
All right. We can totally skip over my slides. They've all been voted on already and go to Larry's slide.
Really?
So this is going to be interesting. Lynn's on Larry's Burn Book 1.
Oh, no.
Lynn's on Burn Book 2.
No.
And Lynn's on Burn Book 3.
Yes.
Oh, Sean on Burn Book 1.
No.
Sean on Burn Book 2.
No.
And Sean on Burn Book 3.
No.
Ooh. Johnny on Burn Book 1.
No.
Johnny on Burn Book 2.
No.
Ooh. Johnny on Burn Book 3.
I'm gonna go with a no.
Ooh. Lars, Burn Book 1.
No, thank you.
Burn Book 2.
No, thank you.
Burn Book 3.
I'm having a existential crisis with this one. It's like the Marvel version of Waiting for Godot.
My brand, Lars.
Yeah, that's true. It really is your brand, isn't it? Oh God, I guess I'll go yes.
Okay. I'm a no on Book 1, but a yes on 2 and 3. Omar, Burn Book 1.
No.
Burn Book 2.
No. I love
Burn
that
Book
cover.
3.
though. Yeah, I'll say yes to 3.
Okay. Now we go to Omar's picks. Lynn's Fantastic Four versus X-Men.
Oh, she froze again, but she said yes. I heard her.
We'll come back to Lynn's at the end of the order. Sean, Fantastic Four versus X-Men.
Yes.
Simonson,
Yes.
DeFalco and Ryan, Monster Among Us.
No.
Okay. Johnny, Fantastic Four versus X-Men.
Definitely yes.
Simonson
Yeah.
and Monster Among Us.
No.
Lars, Fantastic Four versus X-Men.
Oh, I do like it. But
Such a good Fantastic Four story.
I don't think it makes the cut. It's just too weird of a pick. No.
Okay. Simonson, New Fantastic Four.
No, thank you.
And
What
DeFalco and Ryan, Monster Among Us.
No, thank you.
Lars, you
Ooh.
go to hell. I'm sorry. That came out the wrong way.
Yes, you wanted the nice way of go to hell.
Walter Simonson and Arthur Adams gets a note. Oh my God, Lars. All right. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Peter, what do you got?
Oh, I Fantastic Four versus the X-Men is the hardest one for me to decide on the entire thing. I'm gonna say no. I don't think it's one of the 10 best Fantastic Four stories of all time. I'm a yes on Simonson, even though Art Adams is in there, and I'm a no on this first DeFalco Ryan book. I think the other book is stronger. Larry,
By the way, Peter, I echo your primal scream there because that was what I was feeling too. Yeah.
One of those has to make it.
Larry, Fantastic Four versus X-Men.
No.
Larry, Simonson's New Fantastic Four.
I love the team, but no.
Ooh. And Larry, Monster Among Us.
No.
All right. Let's go back to Lynn's.
Wait. What did he say on Monsters Among Us?
Oh, he said hell yeah. He said hell yeah.
That's a no.
He said
No.
no. All right, let's get Lynn's.
Like hell yeah.
Lynn's Fantastic Four versus X-Men.
Okay.
I'm sorry, was it yes or no? No, okay. Simonson, New
No.
Fantastic Four. And DeFalco and Ryan, Monster Among Us.
Yeah. I'll say yes to New Fantastic Four.
Oh,
And then I'll
okay.
say yes to the Monster Among Us.
Oh, okay. All right.
All
All right, well, talk amongst yourselves while I tabulate and figure out what our final 10 are.
Well, I just want to remind everybody to hit that like button, please, and go and check out these wonderful people's channels and podcasts, even though we don't all agree with each other. And that's okay. That's the beauty of having a conversation like this. You have people with really crappy taste and people with good taste. I'm not going to say any names.
Are you pointing at Larry or trying to point at me and going the wrong way?
What are you talking about? I wasn't pointing. I like to talk with my hands. Thank you.
other than Omar right now, I gotta say, this has been the most like calm and tame evergreen that I've been a part of. I'm shocked.
This is calm. You
Yeah,
might be
listen.
right. I haven't really been keeping track, but
Yeah.
The
If
chat
this
is crazy.
if this was a Daredevil one, I would have argued a lot. That's all I'll say.
You have more passion for Daredevil?
He's my guy. But yeah, I agreed with a lot of these. Honestly, I feel like we all have pretty similar taste. I love the John Byrne love. I love the Hickman love, of course. So I feel like a lot of these picks were just really good. There's not much to argue.
Yeah, we're kind of
Liz?
like suffering from Fantastic Four just being great, like, or at
Right.
least the stuff we picked is great.
Well, it's interesting that like some of the things that I thought for sure were going to show up did not show up. I really thought somebody was coming in with Grant Morrison's 1, 2, 3, 4 because that was
I
on
was
my
considering it.
that was my backup, and I thought
Yeah.
that was going to make it. I really thought we would have more Wade in here in Ringo's run. So that kind of surprised. It surprised me. You and Curtis took a slot for DeFalco and Paul Ryan. I guess that kind of shows our age. That was the era that we really got into Fantastic Four. Linz,
Yeah.
what about you? What is your favorite character or characters?
Just in general?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, well, Silver Surfer is my favorite character, for sure.
Okay.
It's Silver Surfer. I love She-Hulk. I mean, Spider-Man, obviously. I feel like everyone loves Spider-Man. But She-Hulk, for sure, and Ben Grimm.
Oh, okay. So you do like the Fantastic Four. A lot of those characters were in the Fantastic Four. That's awesome.
Yeah. I was tempted to choose, like, the bits where She-Hulk was part of the Fantastic Four, but I was like, I feel like no one's going to vote for those.
That was almost one of Larry's books, right? Larry,
Which one?
when Shulky joins the Fantastic Four after Secret Wars.
Yeah, I think that's part of that.
In the third one, right? Because by that point, Secret Wars had happened to 246 to 257, and Secret Wars was 1980, 256 to 257.
Pretty close.
Maybe it was in the 260s when Secret Wars, those tie-ins were happening, and She-Hulk ended up joining the team. Yeah, I really liked that run. It's an excellent run. It's hard to choose which one to go with, though, when you're talking about John Byrne's FF, but it was solid. 260, 262, 260. Maybe it was in the 260s when it happened. Omar, you're older than me, and I love the Falco. Thanks for reminding me, Warren.
yes, good. Oh,
You pick up the gray hairs, huh? Thanks. I appreciate that, Phil. Hope you're doing well, dude. And that Grant Morrison story sucks, but it's beloved. Like, people really like it as a great introductory point four to the Fantastic Four. Plus, it's got some kick-ass Jay Lee artwork, too. What do you got, Peter?
Another minute.
Oh.
Just one more minute? Okay.
How come
So
nobody
are you all
chose,
excited for the Fantastic Four movie?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
looks good.
Yeah. Although, as ever, I don't watch trailers, so I will.
You don't watch trailers at all?
No, I haven't watched trailers since about 2004. And
Okay.
so I will go in there in a pure and virginal state, and every image.
Only
every
time Lars has ever said that.
It's true. It's true. It's the only time. And every joke, everything will be. I mean, I know the major casting announcements, and I've seen the posters, but that's it.
So what's your favorite MCU movie, Lars?
I mean, there are a lot of good ones. It is like trying to pick your favorite child, and so I just reflexively say Guardians of the Galaxy.
The first one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you? Well, yeah. What about everybody here? Linz, what's your favorite MCU movie?
Okay, that's hard. There's so many movies now also. But I
Mhm.
would have to say nostalgia. I want to say Infinity War and Endgame because it just brings everyone together. And then obviously No Way Home because I love Tobey Maguire and Andrew, all of them just coming together.
Oh yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
That was good. Sean, what about you? What's the best MCU movie?
Infinity War and Endgame for me, and then also Winter Soldier. Those three together is like that's top tier.
Yo, man, I said one. You give me 3 movies.
What do you want me to do, man? This is my only chance to talk about the MCU on this channel.
No, it's not. You can always come back and talk about the MCU. What about you, Gianni? What's your favorite MCU movie?
I'm also gonna give you 3. So the the Avengers, the first one, Iron Man, and Black Panther. Those are
Okay.
I love those 3.
Larry?
I don't think they've topped Iron Man, the first one.
Really? Have not topped it. So that's your first, like your
Yeah.
first one is the best one.
Yeah.
Okay. Lars, Guardians of the Galaxy. Peter hates movies, but what's if you had to choose
Winter Soldier.
one of-
I mean, Winter Soldier is in its own category. Apart from them, I like Endgame because Endgame feels like a comic book crossover, like the way that it keeps intercutting between different characters, and you're like, wait, where did the other ones go? To me, watching the theater, I'm like, yes, this is what it was like to read Galactic Storm in the '90s. So probably my top 2: Winter Soldier and Infinity War.
I'm gonna go with Avengers, the first one, because I don't think there had been anything done like that in movies before. Like we would, the James Bond movies would always say like James Bond will return, but never in the history of movies had we seen movies that came out at different times coming together for one big movie. Like that was insane. That's crazy. That's comic books, right? Like so that's the way comics work. But we hadn't seen that done in movies, and I don't know if you could ever recapture that magic. Although Endgame and is it No Way Home? That's the one with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that was close. And who knows, maybe Doomsday, which unfortunately has just been postponed until December of
I'm
2026.
so crushed by that.
Shocking. They need more time to shoot the movie with the 30 movie stars in it.
I'm
Shocking. Nobody expected it.
Let them take their time. I'd rather them do that and rush out bad CG. All right, we are ready. So let's go ahead and see what we got. Time to vote. And here we go. The Evergreen Fantastic Four stories, the Universal picks. Fantastic Four, that's 45 through 60. Is that what
It
we decided?
is.
Okay. And then, oh, wow.
Lars snuck in there.
That's what I knew.
Everybody voted for the trial of Reed Richards. Every single person voted.
Tricked them. Wonderful.
Okay. And then the full circle. Excellent. Now, wait, do we actually have 10? Wait.
We do. It came out to 10 exactly.
There are 10.
Holy crap. We did it. Okay.
Wow.
This never happened.
We didn't tie, yeah.
Although, hold on a second now. Hold on. Wait a minute. How many? I only had 1 in there? The hell. All right. Wait, Walter Simonson. It's a good one. Wade and Ringo's Fantastic Four, the first 12 issues. And then, another John Byrne. Man, we got 3 John Byrnes on here.
And I think what's cool about it is like it's the John Byrnes that also like push ahead and have sequel stories. So both of the Lars and the Linz ones kind of like complement Larry's picks. And clearly, like I said, we were hungry for like mid-late Byrne because that all got in.
Warren with the hot takes. I bet Warren would have voted for Mark Miller's Omni. Brian North's Fantastic Four, and then Jonathan Hickman's. This is the Sean mapping. And Secret Wars, another Lars choice.
There we go.
And Larry's Fantastic Four by John Byrne, book 3.
Yeah.
Or
occasionally, and it is rare, occasionally I know what I'm talking about. I mean, it doesn't happen very often. So let's revel in it while we can. Yeah.
Wait a minute, William, because New Fantastic Four is a great way to get people to read Fantastic Four. It's got Wolverine, Spider-Man. It's got Ghost Rider.
Yes, because when people think of Fantastic Four, that's exactly their go-to.
No, but because you're say you're an X-Men reader, right? Like you're like, whoa, what's Wolverine doing hanging out with these lame characters? And then you read it and you're like, oh shit, the Fantastic Four are pretty cool. I think I'm gonna go and read some more. See, Lars, you know how this works. That's how they hook you.
Right.
That's how it works for me.
Give them something unrecognizable to trick them into reading the proper thing. Yes.
Isn't that what they do with covers?
Sometimes. Yes.
Right?
You're right.
All these variant covers?
Sometimes, absolutely.
Let me tell you, these kids are going to be really disappointed when Savage Land Rogue doesn't look like Savage Land Rogue cover. Just saying.
Well, there is the occasional comic that's disappointing because the cover is so freaking awesome, and then the interior is a completely different artist. But yeah,
There's more than an occasional comic that's
yeah,
disappointing.
that's true. Yeah, it actually happens quite a lot. No, you're right.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
But nothing on this list of 10. This is an outstanding list of comics. A lot of people over the course of the chat have asked us, well, where should they start with Fantastic Four? I said, hold your horses. We're going to get there. I think, honestly, what's great about this is they all kind of read great on their own. Some of them read great as intros. Clearly, the beginning of Hickman reads great before Secret Wars. Clearly, if you read Burn Book 3 before the Malice stuff, that's going to be good. But they all read great on their own. They're all great Fantastic Four stories.
yeah.
And no Tom DeFalco or Paul Ryan.
I know Tom DeFalco got shut out because nobody's read it. They don't have the Epic collections.
They don't have the Epic collections.
Curtis
No,
got to do his job and proselytize.
Yeah, that was all Curtis's fault. I blame him.
I have to know a way to thank all of you. I mean, this has been really enjoyable because I'm a bit late to Fantastic Four. When I was early reading comics, they were around. I would pick up the Burn Run. But I was never really into it. And friends of mine, I have a colleague. He has every Fantastic Four single issue, every single one. They're huge devotees. I was never quite into it. And then late in the game, it was things like Jonathan Hickman's run. I was like, oh, this is quite good. And I do like the Millar Hitch run. And, I've gotten sucked in. I really have. But it took a while.
Was that a victory speech, Lars?
No, it was a I've swung round to becoming one of you votes. Yes. Or speeches. Yeah.
No origin story for the team. Well, I mean, in a way, like Peter said, some of these could work as beginner stories, honestly. Like, what was your first Fantastic Four comic? Does anybody remember here?
Yeah, Wade and Mark Wade and Brian Hitch.
Mine was
not Wade. I'm sorry, Miller.
like the Rich Buckler run. So
like
170, something like that.
Was that the Englehart era?
No,
Or
I think it was before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, Larry. That was a while back. You've been reading Fantastic Four for a long time. And John Byrne.
I was about maybe 9 years old. Yeah.
John Byrne left the impression on you, man. Must have been your high school years. What about you, Linz? What was your first Fantastic Four comic?
I think it was Fantastic Four #1 because I read digitally, so like that was really easy for me to just go to #1 and read it. So I'm pretty sure that was the first one I read. Yeah.
Time out. And you kept reading? Like you liked it enough to?
No, I haven't read every single one from.
Wow.
I haven't read every single
Next
one.
time
but,
somebody's on the show saying newer readers aren't going to like the Silver Age, we're going to play that clip. James Abel, clip it. We're going to play that clip of her saying that she started the Fantastic Four #1.
I love doing that. Like even if I read like just like if I'm reading if I want to get into Daredevil, I'm like, okay, I got to start with #1 at least. Start with at least his first appearance, and then I could kind of skip go from there.
I love that mentality.
One
of us. Yes.
They're fun. Like people say that Stan writes a lot, right? But it's like sometimes it's fun. Like sometimes there's some issues that I can like read through really quickly, and there's some that like I struggle with. And if I struggle with it, I'm like, okay, then I'll just go into a different one and try that one.
Oh, I love that. And Sean, you said yours was the Wade and Ringo?
It was Miller and Hitch.
Oh, Miller and Hitch. Okay. Did you vote yes on that one then?
I definitely did, yeah.
What about you, Gianni? What was your first Fantastic Four?
My dad gave me his collection when I was like 3 or 4.
Okay.
And I know that he had a little bit of Fantastic Four, and the first one that I can remember reading was I know the cover. It was a John Byrne issue, and it's got like a yellow brick wall, and it has She-Hulk, Spider-Man, and I think the Thing breaking through a wall, and that's like the first Fantastic Four issue I remember seeing and flipping through when I was like 4 or 5 years old. And then I think the first like proper was the John Byrne run in full.
Man, so you went back. What did you think of that run?
I think it's not my favorite. I think it has ups and downs. There's a lot of like weird John Byrne isms in it. Um, but I like it overall. I think my favorite run is probably the Hickman run, just because I'm such a huge Jonathan Hickman fan and I love the way he tells long form stories. But yeah.
Oh, okay. And Larry's was one of the, do you remember the issue, Larry, or do you just remember it was Rich Buckler that wrote it or drew it?
No, I think it was in the 170s. If it was a Roy Thomas written issue. But
okay. What about you, Peter?
I was just looking through the covers because I remember buying back issues of it, but I think the first one that I had like in my previews pre-order was Fantastic Four 375, which was the chrome in the background of the cover and everybody's got the big guns. Yeah. Because I think I saw Sue at the front and I always was quicker to buy a book if it had a female leading character on the front of the book. And so I think that was probably the first issue that I noticed that had Sue on the front looking at the covers from that period. And so from there, I actually picked it up all the way until the point that I dropped comics. It was one of my monthlies.
Wow. Wait, when did you drop comics again? We dropped
Onslaught.
Oh, that's why I love you. That's it.
Yeah. So, Omar, even though we didn't have a tie break for the chat vote, I think we could throw up I know we got to get going, but we could throw up a quick chat vote between 4 things that were kind of almost. So we had the Nobody Gets Out Alive. A lot of people can't believe No DeFalco made it. A lot of people in the chat mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4, because that was your alternate pick. A number of people in the chat have mentioned the McDuffie run that comes before Miller.
Oh, I love that run.
And then a lot of people who maybe have loss of taste due to COVID have mentioned Slot.
Slot's run really gets a lot of hate, but I kind of dug the beginning of it. I thought it was solid.
So you liked when he aged up my precious Franklin Richards and Valeria to be whiny teenagers? You love that?
I was okay with aging up Franklin Richards. I hate when characters stay little and young forever. That's why I like the Avengers Assemble, because what's her name? Not Katie, the sister. Is it Katie? That's
Julie is the older one.
Okay. So Julie shows up in there and she's a little bit older. I like that. Or when Alex joins the New Warriors.
And when Alex is on the Fantastic Four as the leader of the Future Foundation during
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me see. You want me to start a poll for the vote for the 11th choice, the chat vote. And what do you want me to put this between?
Nobody Gets Out Alive. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Really? Okay.
A lot of people in the chat were talking about it. McDuffie, which is short enough to fit into one book. And I guess Slot, like first year of Slot, I guess.
Okay. And Slot first year. All right, everybody go and vote, including the people in the panel if you want to. Yeah, I think Slots gets a lot of hate, but I don't remember hating it. I thought it had a pretty good start. So yes, you can vote on your phone if you want to. You're watching now. 1, 2, 3, 4. McDuffie's is solid. That was almost one of mine too. Overlooked a lot because after that was JMS, right? JMS started writing it, and then Mark Miller took over the book.
Yeah.
It's just tough. I'm gonna go with Nobody Gets Out Alive. That's the era that I liked.
Dwayne McDuffie, anything is worth a read.
Yeah,
dude, great.
He wrote one of my favorite Justice League comics.
He wrote my favorite, my favorite Justice League run.
Did
his
he?
Whole run. I love Dwayne McDuffie's Justice League run. It's excellent.
Oh wow, not a lot of people say that. I love it too. Even the forced crossover with that tangent universe that he had to have and bringing those characters up. But he tried to bring the Milestone characters out like before DC was even like who the hell are these characters? Yeah, I'm a big fan of McDuffie and everything he did, and of course Justice League Unlimited. Like holy crap, everything he did with that. Gone way too soon, man. He was so good. McDuffie had to clean up JMS after JMS' character assassination of Reed. JMS wasn't even on the book that long, was he? He was only in there for like 10 issues, 12 issues, something like that. Sanji with the Sanji avatar. Comic Pals represent.
Hey, what's up, Sanji?
Never read anything McDuffie. What would you guys recommend? Oh, you can find it pretty cheap. Third party is the Justice League Injustice League, I think, is his best Justice League story. What do you think, Gianni? What would you recommend?
Any of the milestone stuff. So Static's really good. Icon of Rocket is maybe my favorite, and then the one that gets overlooked the most, Hardware, is excellent. He did for a really fun like Marvel book. What is it? Damage Control? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, he did Damage Control.
That was a really fun series he did. Anything. Milestone, that's like his baby. So all the Milestone titles, I'd read the first couple of stories for those.
Let me look in the chat or in the stream and see how it's going.
We need like six more votes for this to be a valid poll. Come on, get in there, folks. There's a lot more of you watching than have voted. Get in the chat and click a button.
I just don't care about any of these runs. McDuffie fans should check out Beyond. Did he write the first one?
Yeah.
Didn't
he write all of Beyond in like, what is that, 2005, 2006?
Yeah, that's the one with Gravity, right? What happened to that guy? The Sean McKeever character? You remember him?
Vaguely.
Yeah, me neither. Only just tune in any chance anyone has a pick for the worst Fantastic Four story, because I'd read the hell out of that, not gonna lie.
Looking for that Ever Brown list.
Ever Brown, Sean, what's Ever Brown Fantastic Four, Sean? Off the cuff, go.
Matt Fraction.
Ooh.
I was about to say Matt Fraction too.
Johnny, Ever Brown Fantastic Four, go.
Mark Miller.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love it. Lynn's Ever Brown Fantastic Four.
If it's Ever Brown, I don't think I would have probably read it either way.
What's your least favorite Fantastic Four comic you've read to date?
Oh my gosh. You guys are gonna kill me for this. Fantastic Four life story.
What? Damn, Linz.
You should have said that earlier. You should have destroyed Sean.
Next time, lead with those kinds of intrusive thoughts.
Those are the comments we come for, Liz.
Wow.
It's not terrible. It's just not my favorite.
It's just Ever Brown. It's just the worst Fantastic Four story of all time.
That she's read, right?
She's read. Awesome. She only reads good comics.
She started with
worst good comic that she's read.
She started with issue 1, so that means that she's read a lot of BS. And she said, "My pick is Ever Brown."
Love it.
Lars,
what's the worst Fantastic Four comic you've read?
I genuinely and honestly in this moment can't think of one. There's plenty of Fantastic Four where I've gone, okay, this isn't my cup of tea, but you know, it's fine.
But what's one that you're like, that wasn't that good? That wasn't as good as
I honestly can't think of one, because when FF isn't good, it like doesn't bother me. I think in a way this is an advantage, because like I say, I came to Fantastic Four late. And so I'm not as, a pure traditionalist as some people, which is why some things that bother other people don't bother me. I know that in the Fraction run, there's a story about how Doom became Doom in college and Ben's involvement in that. And a lot of the, believers hate that one. And I'm like, actually, I kind of enjoyed this one. I think it's kind of interesting. So I don't get precious about Fantastic Four like some people seem to.
Did you read Heroes Reborn?
Okay. Well, no. Well, sort of. Like enough to determine that I thought it was crap.
Okay.
So admittedly, maybe that one by default, but I didn't really read much of it, to be fair. But yeah, that one yes, fine. Heroes Reborn.
I'm not twisting your arm.
Would Ultimate Fantastic Four count in this?
Yeah, I like dude. Gianni's got some good takes here. I think him and I get along really well.
Well, I want to walk back the Mark Miller thing just a little bit. I don't think it's the worst thing ever. I just think it's kind of like nothing. Like it's so forgettable for me. So it's like I'd rather have something that's really bad over something really forgettable. But Ultimate Fantastic Four, that falls in that as well. It's just so forgettable.
Dude, and people love that run. Like there's nostalgia for that. Whenever I do an overview of the Omni or the upcoming Epic, like people get excited over that, which is cool because I think everybody comes, from a different place. Lynn's is a very rare case where she went back and read issue number 1 of Fantastic Four. Most people are like, give me a quick trade, right? Let me see what Fantastic Four is about. And to some people, that Ultimate stuff was like their first Fantastic Four comics. Larry, did you answer what was the worst Fantastic Four comic you read?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Lars on this. I can't think of a bad one. I mean,
So
I'm pretty good at picking stuff that I'll like. So I guess I'm fortunate in that way.
Okay, fair enough. Peter?
It's Dan Slott. I think the way
Really?
he wrote, I think I like some Dan Slott comics. And the thing I'll say is I think he has certain characters that he writes really well. And when he does not have anything to say for a character, he doesn't just leave them to the side. He like character assassinates them. And he did that very much in Spider-Man, but it worked fine because Spider-Man is the lead character and he loves Spider-Man. I just think that his writing for Sue she was just this shrill harpy. She had to interfere with everybody. He wrote her in the most naggy, annoying, mean, petty way. And it just really turned me off. And I hated how he wrote the kids. And I mean, if you ask me my top 3 Fantastic Four members, it's the kids and Sue. So I was just outski. I think he loves Torch and Thing. And I think his run, if you're a huge Thing fan, is one of the best Things runs out there. I think he did great stuff for Thing and Elisa, but they're just not my top characters, so I didn't love it for that.
See, so for me, like, I love Claremont, but you know his Fantastic Four was okay, and we got Valeria out of that. And I wasn't kidding about Matt Fraction. Like, I really did not like that run, especially following up after Hickman, and it was just weird. And
they like strong-armed him into writing Fantastic Four because he only wanted to write FF, which was fun with Mike Allred and Ant-Man and She-Hulk in it. And I think if I remember correctly, Marvel's like, well, you've got to take the other book too. And so he kind of just like got that book out, and then he was having fun writing FF, if I recall correctly.
And I mean, even Heroes Reborn has Jim Lee's artwork at first. Steve Englehart's run is pretty bad too, by the way. I don't know if you all have read that, but I know Larry has. That one was pretty bad. Okay, we are ready. I'm going to end the poll. Thank you all for voting, and hit that like button. Lars, you had your question. You had a question.
I just wanted to share my first FF issue because it's cute. But if we want to get to the poll results,
no, go ahead. What is it?
Well, so from memory, when back in the day when I was little Lars. In the elementary school library, because of course in Story City, Iowa, you couldn't barely find any comics at all. And when I got a little older, it was almost this Oliver Twist story, but with no comics. Like you would go around to garage sales, kind of going, "Do you have any comics?" But when I was in third grade, and in my elementary school library, of all things, on the shelf, they had a collection of Bring On the Bad Guys, and and that has the first Doctor Doom issue in it, which is an odd issue because I think isn't Doom's first issue like a time travel pirate story?
Yeah,
it's odd. But that was my first one. And then I don't think I thought about Fantastic Four for years and years. And then after puberty, when I started into comics, I think the first one I owned was the first Terex the Tamer, which is 211. Which is a cracking cover. It's a really good one. And I found that at a garage sale. So yeah.
Mine was FF versus the Fantastic Four. I wasn't kidding. I was like, why are the X-Men hanging out? Or no, X-Men versus the Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four versus X-Men. And I think that was my reaction. Why are the X-Men hanging out with these lame characters? And I really liked the Fantastic Four. I thought it was a good story. All right. And now we have the chat vote. So thank you all for voting for No One Gets Out Alive. Somebody let Curtis know that he did not get a full sweep because Mark Miller's book is not on here. So Universal picks, and then the chat voted for that. And it won by quite a lot, honestly. It wasn't like by 5 votes. It won by quite a lot. After that was McDuffie, then Slott's first year, then 1, 2, 3, 4. So maybe people didn't really like 1, 2, 3, 4. I recently read Hickman's Doom. It's very good. Yeah, that one shot was excellent. With Sanford Green on artwork.
Yeah, good stuff.
So good.
I would love to see an Avengers Evergreen video. I think our next one is going to be Superman.
That's the rumor.
Which should be really fun sometime next month. But this is it. This is the evergreen list. So let us know what you think. If you're watching this later, leave those comments down below. What did we leave out? What would you have added? What did we get wrong? Who had the hottest takes? Who did have the hottest takes?
I think you say who is the hottest, which is a different consideration. Right?
Yeah, let's take that to the chat poll. Thank you all so much for joining us. This was a blast. Thank you to my wonderful panelists here. So I'm going to let them sign off one by one, starting with Linz and then moving to Gianni and then Larry and Lars, and then I'll say bye-bye. All right. Linz, where can people find you when you're not hanging out here?
You can find me at Lean Soapbox. That's all my socials. So TikTok, Instagram, and sometimes I do YouTube.
Okay. And Sean, what about you, buddy? Where can people find you?
Omar, as always, thank you so much for inviting me. This has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you to the panel. You're all great, and this was a ton of fun. You can find me at the Comics Pals on social media, on YouTube. It would mean a lot if you subscribed, if you liked my takes, if you had fun tonight. That would be great. It helps us out a lot. We will be live Saturday at 10:15 a.m. Eastern. We're going to talk about the delay of the Avengers movie and then all the other great stuff that's happening in the comics community right now. There are so many good comics. We're always talking about them at the Comics Pals.
And Gianni, what about you, buddy? Where can people find you?
All right, so you can listen to my podcast, Biff Bam Pow, anywhere that you get podcasts. I am also on Blue Sky at Gianni LMAO, and on Instagram at Biff Bam Pow Pod. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
Oh, thank you for being here. And Larry, what about you, my friend? Where can people find you?
I am at Larry's Library on YouTube and on Instagram also, although I don't do a lot there. But check out my channel. And thanks for having me back.
Absolutely, Larry. I'm surprised you didn't come in with more Jack Kirby and Stan. You came in with the John Byrne.
He had a bold agenda to try to pass through the Evergreen stream today.
We got to even out the odds. We got young folks. We need the older generation represented. Larry's like, I'm middle of the road, baby.
Well, the irony being, the young folks friggin' turned out to love John Byrne. They were fully in support of the Byrne agenda.
And brought in the Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. We have failed that generation. All right, Peter, where can people find you, my friend?
I'm known throughout the comic loving internet as Crisis, spelt with a K, so I'm at crushingcrisis.com, which has guides to collect all of Marvel, just about, and a lot of DC as well, including a guide to every Fantastic Four comic and how it's been collected. You can also find me at Crushing Crisis on YouTube, and I'll be back here in Near Mint Condition in just a few short weeks to do the DC Tiger Eyes Most Wanted Omnibus poll, which is where I've been hidden in my cave, getting all of the titles ready. We've expanded it this year to include licenses and Vertigo, so please prepare, and I will see you in early June.
That is correct. And last but not least, Lars.
Yes, Lars Pearson, publisher and editor-in-chief of Mad Norwegian Press. You can find us at madnorwegian.com, and our big specialty is Doctor Who, guidebooks to Doctor Who with Lance Parkin. I co-write a history, which is the definitive thank you, James. The definitive timeline to Doctor Who, and it won an award and everything. So it's over 1 million words, of timeline goodness.
When did you win the award?
It won the Independent Publishers Award, which is one of those things that not that many people care about, but it's nice when you win.
No, that's awesome. Did you get a trophy?
You get a medallion, I think.
Do you wear
and you're not wearing it around your chain,
How are you
like
not wearing it right
Flavor
now?
Flav style
What they really want is for you to pay a lot of money to go to the awards ceremony in New York, which I declined to do.
When is it?
When is it?
Yeah.
We won this quite a few years ago. We won this in like 2008.
Because Omar's always available to accept on your behalf whenever you win an award and you're not going to go.
I'm actually in New York, so I could accept on your behalf.
And Sean and pretend to be you. I'll get super drunk before accepting the speech.
They would probably rather see you there than me anyway, Sean. So that works out very well.
Sean, on the spot, who's your favorite Doctor? Go.
Doom.
Exactly.
Lars.
Oh.
So does anybody here watch Doctor Who? I know I'm a fan, and
I do.
Larry likes it.
Okay.
Peter, have you watched any of it?
I dabble.
Dabble.
It's on
David
screen,
Tennant.
so I don't. Yeah, you know.
The 10th Doctor is the right answer. But that is it, everybody. I'm the Uncanny Omar. Thank you so much for watching. Smash that like button on the way out. And oh my gosh, yeah, we've got to finish out the reprint poll for DC and then kick off the most wanted DC Omnis that have never existed. And that is a
Reaper poll's still open. Vote.
Yep, closes on Tuesday, so make sure you vote. Get your voices heard. And we are out of here. Have a great one, everybody.